I spent the whole day yapping at Petra about James Beaufort and how she's concerned about my mental health. Welcome to the video. Let's do this professionally. Let's do this nicely. Please, God, let this be the take that makes it onto YouTube because I'm fucking losing my shit. Hello everyone, my name is Theo and welcome to my channel. You've seen the title of this video, so you already know we're in for a wild ride through the plot of Maxton Hall the series and Save Me, the book by Mona Kasten. But before we get into all of that, I'd like to take the time to tell you a little bit about me. I love TV series, I love movies, I love books, and most importantly, I love to yap to anyone who has ears to listen about any and every form of media I consume. But more importantly, I would love for you to show some love to this video and maybe subscribe to the channel, because like every other little passion project, I really want this to go somewhere, and it cannot happen without the support of like-minded people online. What I hope to do with this video is ignite the discussion that Maxton Hall truly deserves, because babes, let me tell you, the enemies to lovers romance delivered to me in 6 episodes, no less. I didn't think it was possible. And I am a Canthony truther. If you've watched Bridgerton, Season 2 Supremacy, and Queen Charlotte. But James Beaufort and Ruby, oh my goodness. This, not gonna lie, has filled the hole in my heart that Canthony left, because to me, nothing compares to them. However, right now, nothing compares to this whole thing. So I'm here to tell you all about it. But a couple of other things I want to get out of the way before we get into the plot of all of this. I'm not the first person to ever do this on YouTube, and nor shall I be the last. Therefore, we have to take a few seconds to thank the Holy Trinity of video recaps, Jenny Nicholson, Mike's Mike, Ann Carly. We thank you for your service, and let's hope the Holy Trinity is with us through this journey. Second, I need to bring this up because I don't think it will come up later. This is a German TV show. I watched it in the original German language. Do I think I'm slightly better than you if you've watched the English dubbing? Not gonna lie, a little bit, yes. I am a strong believer in watching things in the original language. Why? Because these actors have been chosen for their voices, for their mannerisms, for their performance. If you watch things dubbed, you rob yourself of half of a performance. Why wouldn't you want to hear James Beaufort speak the way God intended? Literacy rates have been going up steadily worldwide since the 1970s. Therefore, I know you can read. Turn on your subtitles. Go rewatch the series, because honestly I saw some fans say that this was mid. It's not mid in German. I don't know what to tell you. And let baby girl Damien Hardung use his own voice, please. With that out of the way, we're ready to get into episode 1. Psych, actually. Never mind, one more thing. Maxton Hall is doing this very interesting thing of sprinkling inner monologues throughout the 6 episodes. These inner monologues are nowhere in the book verbatim, but they do keep the spirit of the books alive in some way, because while things are slightly different in the series, and the series does add a lot of scenes, these inner monologues do a lot of heavy lifting in terms of characterization, and we get more context and sometimes even character moral philosophies out of them. It's cute, and I will be doing a dramatic reading every single time one happens. Like now. Everyone deserves a world full of opportunities to dream their own dreams, to be who they want to be, to love whoever they want. We all have the power to shape our own destiny, whether we use it or not. We begin with a phone buzzing. James Beaufort wakes up after a night of partying next to God knows who, unimportant now, but we'll find out in 30 seconds. It's his sister Lydia calling. We have several missed calls, so we get that it's an emergency. We overhear the voicemail Lydia leaves. Now, because there has been permanent brain damage done to me by series like Elite, Pretty Little Liars, and Riverdale, I genuinely thought going into this knowing nothing about what the plot was gonna be, I literally thought after that voicemail that this was gonna turn into a murder mystery cover-up thing very quickly. It doesn't, but tell me you didn't get the same vibes. Tell me that voicemail didn't freak you out as well. As James makes his way out of the house, we overhear the voicemail. Lydia sounds distraught, saying she's in big trouble, she doesn't know what to do, and their dad will lose his shit when he finds out. James makes his way out to the pool, and the whole scene is giving Nepo baby realness. By the pool, we meet the boys. The boys are much more important in the book than they are in the show. That's the feeling I got from reading the first book. Nevertheless, two of the boys have made the wall. They are important enough. One of them, reluctantly, Cyril Vega. I didn't want to put this guy on the wall because I did not deem him important enough. However, in the book, he does play a more major role, so he is on the wall for now. And Alistair, our King Alistair. Alistair is James's best friend. We find out from Cyril that James slept with Elaine last night. Elaine is Alistair's baby sister. In the book, this whole thing is a bit messier than in the show, and we get a little bit of information from James's POV chapter, where he says that his parents, Cordelia and Mortimer, would love if he got engaged to a blue-blooded woman like Elaine Ellington, because Alistair and Elaine are part of this family that's very bougie and English aristocracy, and the Beauforts would love James to be set up for life in a marriage like that. Very good PR too. This is the life these people live. As Alistair pushes James into the pool, Lydia shows up and she looks and sounds just as distressed as she did in that voicemail. Mascara running, she can barely breathe or speak for that matter. The only thing she gets out of her is, she just burst in. She saw us. James, I don't know what to do. I need your help. James is like, calm down. Who saw you? What is happening? Lydia goes, Ruby Bell. James goes, who the hell is Ruby Bell? We cut to Ruby Bell, our female protagonist. Ruby is on her way to school 4 hours prior to the whole pool party scene. Very Christopher Nolan non-linear storytelling, and it takes balls to do this in a German teen drama, so they get some extra points for that. Ruby is on the bus on her way to school, and there we meet Mr. Sutton. This is the first mention we get of Oxford and how much Ruby cares about it. She needs a letter of recommendation from one of her teachers for her application, and she asked Mr. Sutton. Here on the bus, there's also a cute little scene of Ruby giving her seat up for this pregnant lady on the bus. It's there to make us understand that Ruby is a good person and she's been raised right. Maybe a bit different than some of the people in this group over here, but that's Ruby. As she gets off the bus, we get a continuation of the inner monologue I had just read to you, as she's making her way through the schoolyard and into the school. Can I fucking read? Literacy rates? That was a lie. Apparently I cannot read. Everyone deserves a world full of opportunity, and if there is one place where that's possible, it's at Oxford University. The world welcomes those who have studied there, and if everything goes as planned this semester, then in less than 365 days I will be there. Maxton Hall is my entry ticket. It's not just a school, it's one of the schools. I worked hard for months to qualify for a scholarship. Of course, that makes me the exception here. For generations, families like the Beauforts, these guys, have had more power and money than some royal families. For them, every door springs open. British royalty, the son of the Manchester United coach, the cousin of the Emir of Dubai, they're all here. They go to the same parties, get the same jobs, marry the same people. A microcosm of millionaires. And I almost forgot, besides money and influence, my fellow students have this in common. I'm invisible to them. I immediately realized this is my superpower. If I want to enroll within a year, I cannot afford to make any mistakes, especially in front of this crowd. The less they notice me, the better. As Ruby makes her way into school, another thing I want to mention is that some inconsiderate fella drives the car past Ruby and splashes some mud on her white socks. Not nice. And I think, if I remember correctly, it's Percy driving Lydia to school. And my man Percy he's a very nice person. We like Percy. I think this is the only not nice thing he does in the whole series. Okay, that's a lie. Something is gonna come up in episode 6, but I just wanted to point that out. Percy, why you gotta do Ruby like that? Man, drive slower. As Ruby makes her way into school, she is greeted by Lynn. Lynn is Ruby's best friend. We gotta pause there for a second. Do I mean to tell you that Ruby Bell, middle-class citizen, has made friends with one of the Nepo babies? Well, yes, but not quite. You see, Lynn has gained class consciousness after her parents' divorce and after they lost all their fortune, and that's when they became friends. She used to be part of this clique. She's not exactly anymore. Her whole status took a blow, but we vibe with the friendship. It's a good friendship. We love them. Next, we're in class. This is where we get the shots of Ruby's planner that the book opens with. In the book, the first thing we read, at least according to the translation, if someone duped me and this is wrong, I have no way of confirming, so I hope I'm not bullshitting here. But in the book, we open with Ruby and how her whole life is divided in colors. And she has this whole thing in the book about her little notebook and how she has everything there. This woman is tracking moon cycles, her habits, her whole schedule and to-do list, and everything is in that one notebook. She's very type A, and all I'm gonna say to end this is that there are reasons why this woman wants to go to Oxford. They are in Mr. Sutton's philosophy class. They are discussing Kant, and we can skip through that, I believe. You really thought I was gonna skip our discussion of Kantian ethics? Think again. Class is in session. Now, I'm not just doing this because I love moral philosophy. I'm doing this because this whole scene not only will make us smarter going through it, but it's also an important moment of characterization for both Lydia and Ruby. So it is my pleasure to go through it, actually. I will be looking at my notes throughout this scene because these girls talk a lot and I cannot be bothered to remember everything they say. Plus, it is quite some concepts to wrap our heads around. So Lydia presents a viewpoint that maybe we should ignore the consequences of our actions if it feels like an action is morally correct to take. Ruby states that reason is at the core of Kantian ethics, not feelings. Lydia jumps back in and states that, hey, maybe Kant isn't that relevant anymore, because after all, humans are able to use reason to make decisions in their lives, but we most often resort to feelings to make said decisions. Ruby replies that this is what makes ethics interesting. The fact that we can choose between the two is what defines moral fortitude. But let me take you deeper into Kant's philosophy to make sure that we understand who won this debate. Immanuel Kant's moral philosophy, particularly his concept of the categorical imperative, emphasizes the role of reason in ethical decision-making rather than feelings or consequences. Kantian ethics is fundamentally about using reason to determine moral duties and acting in accordance with them regardless of the consequences or personal feelings. Moral fortitude, according to Kant, is demonstrated through the exercise of rational autonomy and adherence to moral duty. What Lydia was arguing about is more David Hume's moral philosophy, where he states that reason is and ought only to be a slave of the passions. Poetic, right? I love it. Who thought that this German teen drama would make us all smarter? But with that, Ruby clearly won that debate, and class is dismissed. We are now walking outside with Ruby and Lynn discussing the welcome party that's gonna happen at Maxton Hall in a couple of days. Lynn lets us know that she spent half the summer talking to caterers, electricians, and whatnot, and Ruby makes a little joke that we need to make sure that the DJ isn't stoned again, which implies that there has been a party at Maxton Hall where there was a stone DJ, and I just want to say, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and it sounds like a fun party. I wish I was there. I think James would agree with me because it's through his POV chapter that we find out that these parties are usually very lame and he tries to make them fun in some way. It's usually alcohol, but the DJ shenanigans sound fun. Ruby realizes that she forgot to leave some documents for Mr. Sutton for her recommendation letter for Oxford. Remember, Ruby cares about one thing and one thing only, and it's getting into Oxford. And she rushes back to the classroom. She bursts in, and who does she find there making out with Mr. Sutton? Lydia Beaufort. What in the Pretty Little Liars is happening here? Of course, growing up with Ezra and Arya's relationship in that TV show, I am not easily fazed by a teacher-student romance. However, some things need to be said because I have since grown up and gained perspective. Displaying this relationship and romanticizing it throughout season 1, I'm not vibing with it. I am here to yak your yam if you think these two belong together. They do make excuses for it, we'll find out later, and at least in the book I didn't have to endure so much interaction between these two, but even there they use kind of the same excuse in the show. We'll get into it much later. I just want to point out that this man was teaching them moral philosophy 3.5 seconds ago. And we're not gonna sit here and victim blame. She's 18 at best, 17 at worst, and she just argued in his philosophy class that maybe the consequences to our actions don't really matter if it feels right. Nothing about this should feel right to Lydia, and I don't know if this commentary will help anyone break out of such a relationship, but babies, protect yourselves. And anyway, we move on. Ruby runs out of there as fast as she can, and we're now all caught up with the timeline. I need to say it's a different day of filming. Fuck me. Okay. Hello again. I'm supporting. Do you support? Thank you for your support. Hello, it's a different day of filming. you might have noticed the pictures have moved around a little bit. I think after this whole thing has turned into a multi-day debacle, these pictures will become a permanent fixture in my apartment until I finish this goddamn video. I hope we won't go through too many changes with these pictures, but I don't know what to tell you. This thing has been an adventure and it's taking us through lands unknown. For yapping about how he didn't show up at school in the first place, so far in my recordings he has shown up at school like 8 times. Every single time he turns heads. I don't know what to tell you.
He's always present.
Oh, I swear, if you see the makeup melting off of my face, it's because it's because of reasons. Because of reasons. Did I switch the when the fuck did I do that?
Girl, you don't remember?
I do not have answers to the question. I'm not sure I know how to speak anymore. Time that, bitch. Good luck. Actually, you've been doing a great job. That's for editing them. Rapunzel over here. I have to have my locks.
We're having a meltdown.
My god, I'm also getting undressed on camera.
Thank God I'm in the room. Because God knows what you would do.
Do you know I've also been concerned that this fucking couch looks like a casting couch, and I'm like, I swear it's not the type of video I'm filming. Okay, I'm fine. I once again, I don't know why the fuck I care about how I look like, because
It doesn't look unhinged. It's just episode.
it's the crazy eyes.
Yes, it's fine.
Okay, James shows up at school for the 50th time this afternoon. We will pick up where we left off. James Beaufort finally shows up at school, and we now understand that he's been skipping half a day of school, which is kind of irresponsible, not gonna lie, but also it's his last year of high school, and in the book we get this whole thing in his chapter where he's like, I want to enjoy it, I want to party with the boys. See pool party scene where we began this whole thing, and now he shows up at school to try to sort out all of this situation happening. He of course turns some heads walking into school, and we get how important James Beaufort is to literally everyone in the school. He's headed straight into the party planning committee meeting. In that meeting we meet Kieran Rutherford, a sweet baby boy who has a huge crush on Ruby. It's not reciprocated, and in the book it's made much more clear that she's kind of oblivious to it. In the show, they try to do away with a line in a later episode like, hey, maybe guys don't need to be into you to just be a nice person, but Kieran is clearly crushing hard on Ruby. We move on. One more thing about him, actually. In the book, he's described as a pale-skinned, young Count Dracula type, and I do think that they nailed the casting with this. Look at him. Little cutie. He brings up that they need footage of the lacrosse team for the promo video that's gonna roll around the welcome party at school. When I heard welcome party, I thought that this was gonna be a homecoming dance for the kids that go to this school. Baby, was I wrong. This whole thing is more like a PR event for the Nepo babies, but more importantly for the parents of said Nepo babies. The school has a lot of these parties. I think it's maybe in a Ruby chapter in the book where we get that the school throws parties for literally anything and everything. Christmas, New Year's, homecoming, Lexington's birthday, you name it, they have the money to throw these events. And it's mainly to get donations from all the people. That's why James kinda rules the school. The Beauforts throw so much money at this freaking school, it's incredible. In addition to the uniforms, actually. Fun fact, Cordelia designed the uniforms. As Kieran mentions lacrosse for the promo video for this party, we hear some girls giggle and finally say that, oh my god, one of these videos is gonna be worth watching because seeing James Beaufort sweaty and up close, damn, the whole school is horny for James Beaufort. And all I'm gonna say is chapter 29, girlies. I got you. Go find the PDF. Save Me by Mona Kasten, chapter 29. James walks into the meeting finally and he's dead staring Ruby down. He pulls up a chair, still staring at Ruby, and the whole room is like, oh, what's up? James Beaufort is here. Ruby ignores him at first, and we get a little inner monologue that characterizes James from Ruby's perspective. James Beaufort embodies everything that is wrong with the rich: immeasurable privilege, arrogance, and ignorance. Until now, I've been able to keep at least a room full of people between us. James says hi, and in the book, Ruby takes a moment to note that this is the first moment where she heard James speak, but not in the shouting on the lacrosse field type of way, but like to her and up close, and it's very interesting. I just think it's fun that she pointed that out. James Beaufort said hi to her, and Girly Pop noted it. He asks for a moment of her time, and as they walk out of that room, Ruby packs her bag to get out of there. This is the first time when we get a hint of how much of an observer James is, and we love that about him. There's a lot of scenes in the series. They make a very good job of pointing out to us that James really looks out for everyone in his life, and you wouldn't expect it to be with Ruby as well, because he's just there to bribe her right now. And I also love that it's about this freaking backpack, because in the book this man develops a low-key obsession with her fugly backpack. It's at least 3 or 4 times that he makes comments about how it's the color of vomit, but it kind of looks cute on her. And this man and that fugly backpack, it's gonna come up later, so just note that this man noticed her backpack. They go into like an empty classroom, and James pulls up a stack of money. It's 10,000 British pounds. This guy has money to throw around. He tells Ruby, okay, you clearly know what this is. I'm Lydia's brother, and if you don't make a squeak until the end of the semester, the money is gonna double, and until the end of the year, it's gonna quadruple. This is what he says in the book. In the series, it just doubles by the end of the year. She pulls a sarcastic smile and says, wow, you're an even bigger asshole than I thought you were. She slaps the money onto his chest and turns around to leave. James grabs her hand, and the movement pulls her right back in. She continues and says, why don't you throw in a Maserati and a Fabergé egg as well? He smiles and says, come on, I know you need the money, alluring to the whole backpack thing from earlier, and also to her clear middle class status. She goes, I have 17 pounds in my backpack. Do you need change for the cafeteria, boo? No? Then you should take your money and put it back where it belongs, in your trust fund. As she leaves, she makes it rain all over the floor with his money. It's now the afternoon, and we see Ruby working at a local cafe. This woman is earning her cash. Lynn texts her and asks what was that with James earlier, what did he want? Ruby thinks to herself, to humiliate me? But I don't need his money, I earn my own. In the book, she does spiral just a tiny little bit. We have a few sentences where she's like, damn, like that was a lot of money I just turned down right now. We could have bought a new car, fixed our house, and whatnot. But she has principles. This woman has principles. She won't be bribed by James Beaufort. As she leaves the cafe, we meet Amber, her little sister. She doesn't go to Maxton Hall. It's kind of a big deal in the family that Ruby got a scholarship to go there. Amber is just back from normal high school in their small town. They make their way home, and as we enter, we see a couple of things that are important to note about Ruby's family. The first thing we see as we go through the door is one of these lifts that help people get upstairs. Then we very quickly learn that Ruby's father is unfortunately in a wheelchair, following an accident that happened when Ruby was a child. More on that accident later. It is also here that we learn a couple of things about Ruby and Amber. Ruby has a passion for manga, and her dad exchange books. He gave her to read of Men in Heaven, and she gave him Death Note to read. He makes a little joke because in a whole month he managed to go through only half of the first volume. I don't know how many volumes are there. Petra should know.
Of Death Note? Oh fuck, too many.
Too many. But first one he just managed to go through half, and he makes a little joke and he's like, it took me the whole month to understand that I need to read it backwards. And I felt that.
A rookie mistake happens to the best of us. Love that our main girlie likes manga. It's like kind of cool little characteristic.
And about Amber, we learned that she has a passion for fashion. Girly Pop here has a blog. It's going pretty well. It's mentioned both in the series and more in the book. Like, Ruby has been helping her out with it. They take pictures, she writes articles, and her main thing is that she's a plus-size queen who makes her own clothes. It's now the next morning at school, and Ruby goes to Sutton's classroom to get her documents back for that letter of recommendation. He still gives her the letter, but she says, listen, I won't say anything, but if anything comes out about this whole thing going on, your letter becomes worthless to me. So I would much rather ask anyone else. She goes out of there, and on the hallway with Lynn asks a couple of questions, like, I thought you had the letter in the bag, what happened with Sutton? Ruby makes an excuse and she's like, he just didn't have enough time, I asked him too late. And then the conversation switches to James. She brushes it off, and then they continue talking about the letter. They come up with the brilliant idea to ask Mr. Lexington, the headmaster of Maxton Hall. It makes sense because of a couple of reasons. He most likely will appreciate the audacity to even ask. And second, because he is kind of scary, most probably no one asked him yet. On her way to Lexington's office, James intercepts her and pulls her into an empty staircase. He is there to renegotiate. No! I lost the page! I lost the plot. So many times. There is plot, I swear, it's not just the thirst straps of James Beaufort.
Allegedly.
She tells him she really doesn't want his money, and he tells her to drop the Mother Teresa act and just tell him what he wants from his family. She goes, Mother Teresa would have taken the money and given it to the poor. His tone remains serious, and he says, come on, everyone has a price. What's yours? Ruby stays silent, looking at him, and this man starts undressing. James Beaufort! Why are you prostituting yourself? And why is that the default? He dares to say, a little adventure with the hottest guy in school. Ruby just lets out a laugh, and she's like, is this the first time you're prostituting yourself, Beaufort? He says, oh, come on, I wouldn't ask for money. I know you're a little short on that now. She tells him to go to hell, and he says, is this your idea of dirty talk? Then they hear someone go on the staircase. Ruby kind of pulls him to the side in a panic, and this is the equivalent of that scene in the book where she tells him, I really can't afford to be seen with you again. That whole thing in the book is haunting James throughout this first episode. And, well, throughout the chapters, I guess. He comes closer to her and she says, one more step and I'll kick you in the Beaufort family jewels. She then says that her price is for him to leave her the hell alone, and she rushes out of there. More notes on the scene. In addition to the great camera work, honestly, there is also some chemistry between these two. This is the scene that convinced me that maybe it's worth wasting my time watching this. Now, are we ready for some lacrosse? It's okay, I wasn't either, but here we are. We are in the locker room with James, Alistair, Cyril, basically everyone, because in the book we learn that prior to James taking the reins of the lacrosse team wasn't doing that well in the school, and now they have 2 championships under their belts in a row, no less. And it's through James's efforts. He is the star boy, captain. We know the drill. But more importantly, in the book, in this lacrosse chapter in the locker room, we find out that although he started this whole thing to piss off Mortimer because the team was really in shambles when he started, James has kind of found a passion in lacrosse, and he says something really cute in the book. It's the first time in my life when I could muster passion for anything. It's bittersweet though, because this is his last year of high school, and he also says, when this season is over, that's it for me. Lacrosse was nothing but part of a slow, cruel countdown that I can't stop, no matter how hard I try. James Beaufort and his whole thing about the pressures of living the life he lives. It's also in this scene that James tells Alistair to stay off McCormack. Who is McCormack? It doesn't really matter, but Alistair does throw a line like, yeah, sure, but after what he did to Cash last match, he almost broke his neck. There is some beef there with McCormack, and it's important in 3 seconds from now. The game starts, and of course Alistair, although he is perfect and we love him, he cannot behave for 2 seconds and gets benched instantly. Once benched, he gets to talk to Ruby a little bit. Ruby is there because Lexington is gonna be at this lacrosse match as well, plus they need the whole footage for the promo video. In the book, she needs pictures for the school blog, and she also needs to write the article. Lynn somehow isn't there, and she's sort of overwhelmed. And dare I say that in the book, this scene is a bit cuter than it is in the show, because Alistair, while benched, he has nothing better to do, and he just offers his help because he sees this girl struggle with taking notes in a very old camera, and he pulls up his iPhone. And then he even takes the pictures on his own and lets Ruby write the blog post about the match. In the series, they make a little joke about, the match is happening that way. And he's like, yeah, sure. They have a little laugh, and I don't think they've met before. And they shake hands like people do when they meet for the first time. James, because he cannot help but be preoccupied about Ruby, he sees this from the lacrosse field and instantly assumes that some deal has been brokered between these two. Ruby builds up the courage to ask Mr. Lexington for that letter of recommendation. He's like, you're not really doing much for the school, and I haven't really noticed you outside of class. Lynn points out that she's presiding over the party planning committee with her this year. Lexington agrees to give Ruby the letter of recommendation she needs if the welcome party goes smoothly. The game ends, Maxton Hall wins, and as Ruby leaves, James intercepts her and tries to intimidate her and asks what was that with Alistair before. His tone is much serious than in the staircase. He looks damn scary, but in a hot kind of way, not gonna lie. And this irredeemable ass starts telling her, someone like you can't touch people like us. You're a nobody from some no-name backwater without any money or connections, so knock yourself out. He immediately gets picked up into the celebrations, leaving Ruby to have a panic attack. On a first watch, I didn't realize that these panic attacks happen as early as the first episode, so I'm glad that they are building that up. James gets picked up by Percy after the celebrations, and in the car we get a cute scene between the two of them. Him and Lydia have just as cute of a relationship as Ruby and Amber, but they are not as happy in their family as these two are. But in this car scene, the most important thing to note is that James really would do anything to help Lydia. And in the book, we go a bit deeper into this need to help his twin sister. He is really devastated that he can't help her because this strange woman won't take his money. And he's really frustrated about this whole thing. And he also notes that out of all the family drama that they have to endure, Lydia sort of has it the worst, and she deserves none of it. We're now in the Bell household again, and another cute family scene is happening. They are watching TV. I think it's a documentary. In the book, they are watching The Voice. It doesn't really matter. But this is where we get Ruby's inner monologue about the elephant metaphor. If you know, you know. The elephant is one of the strongest animals in the world, and that's why the metaphor of the chained elephant has always fascinated me. An elephant could easily tear out the stake it's chained to out of the ground, but no matter how big and strong it is, its belief that it is powerless keeps it chained in place. People are no different. Our fears and prejudices keep us from realizing our full potential, from following our dreams. I am lucky since I know there is only a small stake holding me, and I'm pulling it out little by little every year. I won't let myself be chained to a stick, and certainly not by someone like James Beaufort. Ruby is thinking about James in her free time at home, and she despises him for now. The enemies are enemying, and I am here for it. Oh, the party, yes. Oh my god, this fucking asshole. I love him. The party is now in full swing at Maxton Hall. Where are our drinks?
Oh my god.
Do you not have a drink?
I have a drink. Where's your drink?
Oh, can you give it to me? It's over there.
I'm like, we are doing this for the Yes.
Okay, lovely. Oh my god.
We'll also be drinking. Yes.
The party is now in full swing at Maxton Hall. If we are a bit unhinged, or if the general vibe is that, it's because this is like the 5th take of the day because of various technical difficulties, and we have been drinking gin and tonics. Because other than scotch, or the brown liquid as Ruby calls it in the book, James's drink of choice is gin and tonic. We are drinking mango gin and tonics. Okay, lovely. Let's go. Ha! Maxton Hall! I didn't even mention that. Maxton!
Good. People don't need to know.
Maxton! Maxton! If the party was a baby, Ruby would be the helicopter mom. She's all over the place, a little bit stressed, and she's giving me anxiety just watching her go everywhere, trying to make literally everything perfect, because remember, there are high stakes here. She needs that letter of recommendation from Lexington. We see Alistair go talk to the DJ and then report back to James. These kids are cooking up something, and Miss Bell won't be like what she's getting served. Mr. Sutton goes to talk to Ruby to try to deal with the whole situation that he has caused, quite frankly. And James, the little devil, notices this and pulls up his phone to take a couple of pictures. These pictures do not come up again in season 1. I had a very bad feeling watching this and prior to reading the books. And I can confirm that something will happen to the pictures, and surprisingly, only at the end of the 2nd book, actually, but they do come up, and it's exactly how I thought they would come up. More on that later, or in a future video. As Lexington makes his way to Ruby through the crowd to congratulate her on a great party and reassure her that she does have that letter from him, strippers crash the party. In the book, James had this cooking prior to knowing that Ruby is part of the party planning committee, but it's the same pretext. As Ruby goes to confront him, he just goes, "I figured that if I'm not your type, maybe one of these guys is." In the book, he also notes how lame these parties are and how he always likes to have a little fun at them. It's most often through alcohol, but now there are exotic dancers as well, so I don't mind. It's fine. Lexington puts two and two together and summons James and Ruby into his office. They are both in big trouble. James gets suspended from lacrosse and Ruby loses her letter of recommendation. After she insists and renegotiates, Lexington agrees to give her a second chance, but James now needs to work on the party planning committee with her. They start arguing, and because of the incessant fighting, they get thrown out of Lexington's office. On the hallway, Ruby says that she's not afraid of him, and this is where we get the first glimpse into the mind of James Beaufort in the series. His first piece of inner monologue reads, "You want war, Ruby Bell? You've got one." End of episode 1. Okay, we're ready to go into episode 2. Hopefully the audio will be much better because apparently I was holding the mic wrong. You will have to excuse me because I am functioning on an empty stomach with just caffeine and gin and tonics. So the video has become unhinged and I don't think I will do a reshoot the 6th time for episode 1. We have to move on and I have to get into episode 2. There's more enemying to be done. There's no lovers yet. I have to get us there, so let's go. We open episode 2 with a flashback to young James Beaufort. We have a scene of him and Papa Mortimer. The way I dislike this man, you just wait and see. Mortimer teaches James that manipulation is key to success in life. It's about making your opponent make mistakes, observing them, and then exploiting them. You need to make your opponent believe they only have one possible course of action. This is the type of life lessons that Mortimer gives to James. We gain a bit more what?
We understand James a bit better.
Yes.
We get to understand.
We get to understand. Can I fucking speak? We get a longer inner monologue from James now. Pride is the first of the deadly sins, but it is in fact one of the most useful emotions there is. Pride indicates status, and if there is one thing people react to, it's that. Every person on earth has their place, like pieces on a chessboard. Pawns can fight all their lives to become king, but only those born as kings know what the position really means. You have power, the goal of the whole game, but you're also the most vulnerable piece on the board. If you want to maintain your position, you have to move your pieces forward. A Beaufort won't be bossed around, not by the headmaster and certainly not by someone like Ruby Bell. By the way, I don't think I've mentioned this before, but Percy in the book is described as an Antonio Banderas type of guy, and I'm here for it. And it gets mentioned like 3 times, twice by Ruby and once by Alistair. And I'm like, okay, we get it. Percy, an attractive middle-aged man. I need a carrot. Pause. We need a carrot. A bit of ASMR. At least I get to eat because Lynn eats carrots. Where the fuck do I put this fucking carrot now?
A few moments later.
Lynn's oral fixation begins here. Welcome. On my first watch, it literally felt like in every other scene, Lynn is munching on some noisy vegetable. On a second watch, it doesn't happen that much, but what can I tell you? I feel like it's one of these quirky little things that the series does. It's not already in the book, but this is the personality Lynn gets, munching on very noisy vegetables. We will be counting the carrots, by the way. This is carrot number 1. We have a scene at school where they are in the party planning committee and they are planning yet another party at the school. But we cut straight to James on the lacrosse field in clear defiance of Lexington and the ban. he has for the rest of the semester. The coach shows up and he's like, Beaufort, what are you doing here? The headmaster is really serious about this. James goes, man, listen, with the amount of money that Papa pours into this school, I am untouchable. Lexington will calm down, it's fine. The coach lets James know that it's actually Mortimer's decision that he won't play lacrosse anymore this semester. James pauses and he has what I will describe as an almost crying face. You get the feeling that he is hurt by this. Lacrosse, as I mentioned in episode 1, he feels deeply about all of this and it's his one thing he enjoys doing. He pulled some shit and Papa took away his favorite toy. We get another one of James's inner monologues. If you want to control the world around you, you must understand one thing. If you allow it, control can be taken from you as quickly as you grabbed it. And the way you react to a situation like that defines whether you belong on the winning or losing side. This man is left dumbstruck by this. He grew up in such a toxic environment and his self-worth is so deeply tied to upholding the Beaufort status. He's been psychologically, and in the book more clearly stated, psychologically and physically abused by this man. And Mortimer banning him from playing lacrosse is just another blow that James takes. We get another Lydia and James scene where they are in the schoolyard or something, and James is taking out all of these negative feelings around lacrosse and his punishment onto Ruby because he can't default to Mortimer. He has no power over Mortimer. Therefore, all this pent-up energy and negative feelings get redirected to Ruby. They discuss the Ruby Sutton situation again, and James says, she won't talk, I'll make sure of it, and then quotes that only one possible course of action thing from earlier, and Lydia in a low-key disappointed tone says, Dad would be proud of you. We are now in a party planning committee meeting, and Lynn and Kieran are discussing the theme of the next event, which is a charity gala. In the book, it's a Halloween party, so we get a bit of help with the timeline that is confusing in the show, less confusing, arguably, in the book. But in the show, it's not clearly stated that it's a Halloween event, it's just a charity gala, period. It's James's first party planning committee. In the book, he is miserable. I cannot describe to you enough how bad he feels sitting in this meeting, looking out the window and seeing the guys like with the lacrosse team running around the schoolyard training and all that. And he keeps on thinking how bad this is for the team. They've been winning, like, they won 2 championships in a row thanks to his efforts, no less, and the boys. And right now, Alistair is benched for like 3 games and they don't have a captain anymore. Well, technically, it's just not James because Sai? Who am I? It's like I'm on first name basis with Cyril. But sure, Sai has been named the captain and it's ripping James apart. Lexington and Mortimer were onto something when they decided that this is James's punishment. In the meeting, these guys and Ruby, they are preoccupied with discussing the theme of the charity gala, the decoration, and every single little detail. They suggest a black and white party. James scoffs and is like, oh, come on, that's lame. He thinks all of these parties are lame. You should see his POV chapter of the party that he called the strippers at. He throws shade at every single little thing about the party, and it's delicious. But in this meeting, he just finds himself speaking out loud to taunt Ruby, for sure. But he's like, guys, this is lame. Everyone's like, well, do you have a better idea? He suggests a Victorian party. Everyone is vibing with it because honestly, it is the superior idea, but nevertheless, they go around the room voting. these two cannot help but throw shade at each other, and it's honestly, I'm a bit embarrassed to watch it. They should get a room already because their chemistry, like, sparks are flying in the best way possible. And there is also this scene in the book where Lynn points out that throughout one of these meetings, James was like looking at Ruby, like begging her to look back at him. And Ruby was like, I was leading the meeting, everyone was looking at me. Lynn points out, babe, not like that. So anyway, their banter is delicious, but everyone votes for the Victorian party in the end. The poster they need to decide on needs to go to print in 3 days. We have to check because apparently I am incompetent and rushed into the first episode. Yes, I am okay. Why are you asking? No one asked. I am losing it slowly.
It's fine.
It's fine, but I like these stupid teenagers. Okay, I need to... Notes. Now that we're planning a Victorian theme party, we need period costuming, right? Lynn comes up with the genius idea to use the Beaufort archives. The Beauforts, I don't think I've mentioned this before, but the Beauforts, they have their fortune because James's great-great-grandfather has built up this clothing empire. They've dressed kings and queens and whatnot, and there is tradition. And there are the archives where in London, and this is where we go on the whole thing is happening in England tangent. I have looked this up. At first, I wanted to be like, what's going on? This Maxton Hall college is like a boarding school or what? It's fine. I wanted to be open-minded about it. And I know there is this boarding school in Denmark that the royal princes of the Danish royal family attend with other Nepo babies, most likely. So I was like, okay. Second, they speak German all throughout the series. And I was like, okay, it can be a bilingual school. These fancy schools can be an all-German on-site type of school. Sure. What took me out of it finally was when Lynn said, we can go to the Beaufort archives in London. And I was like, London? Pause there for a second. London? Where the fuck is Maxton Hall? It's 2 hours outside London. And the little town Ruby lives in, it's Gormsey. I don't even know. I haven't looked it up, but it's probably a real town. In the book, there's another town mentioned, Pemwick or something. So, yeah, just so you know, they speak full German in England, everywhere, anytime, and including at Oxford later. So, yeah, I just want to mention that because while I did sit here and argue that you should be watching this in the original language and everything, you can say that it took you out of the whole thing, but we move on. Lynn came up with the idea, so now Ruby has to talk to James about it. In the book, this is the situation where James resorts to the petty move and withholds access to the archives because, one, he feels like it's the power move most easily available to him. But second, the thought of anyone being near his parents or asking his parents for anything is making this man sick to the stomach. Like, he's managed to keep the boys away from Mortimer specifically and his family life. And it's not that hard because these people are busy all the time. But Ruby at some point in the book is like, if you won't help me, I'll just write to the Beauforts myself to ask for help. And he's like, no, you won't be doing that. It's mainly because he wants to keep everyone away from his family as far away as possible. Here, he just withholds access because it's the dickish move. that he wants to take to mess with Ruby. Of course, in the series there is one more factor that we get through the amazing acting of Damien. You can read on his face that he doesn't want to talk to Papa because of the whole lacrosse thing, and he won't just fold and go begging for a favor from him. It's not the moment, and it's not what he's been taught by this man all his life. So there's also that facet of him saying no to the Beaufort Archives idea. Oh my god, I forgot. No, I definitely need to re-record fucking episode 1 because I forgot to mention that Amber has a passion for fashion. And now what I want to say doesn't make any fucking sense.
I mean, technically you said it in the... but I remember you told me that. But yeah...
Last time, not in this one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because I'm like, I know this. It's fine.
do you see why this is sending me spiraling and I'm going insane?
It's fine. Ignore.
It's okay, we will re-record that. It's fine, we will go there. So, back at the Bell residence, Amber and Ruby come up with a plan to modify that dress that Amber made on his own. She just goes, hey, I can solve your Victorian dress thing for the poster. I'll just make some modifications to the dress I already have and it can all be sorted out. Ruby's like, are you sure you really like that dress? She's like, yeah, sure. Why not? Plus, it's good for her blog. I don't think I mentioned this before, but she has a fashion blog. She's really dedicated to it, and throughout the book, it's like it keeps growing and stuff. And James has a passion for blogs too. He loves reading blogs. I think these books were written in like 2017, 2018, so back then people...
It was a thing.
It was a thing. It's now the next morning and we are on the father and son morning run. James tries to renegotiate with his father about playing lacrosse because remember, if Ruby cares about Oxford, this man cares about lacrosse. Dad.
I mean, he's a father.
But is he? James tries to renegotiate returning to the lacrosse field. Mortimer cuts him off and even points out that lacrosse is kind of a girl's game anyway. We get a feeling that James could never be good enough for Mortimer. Like, he is the golden boy of the family, but he is a golden boy under an insurmountable amount of pressure from Papa Mortimer, god fucking damn it. And from this discussion alone, we understand that their relationship is strained. James is having a baby girl moment and his chin is trembling and you can tell how hurt he is by this whole discussion. Mortimer ends it by saying, maybe if you put in some effort with the company and the investors meeting and all that, things would be working out for you better. And anyway, with the morning run turned into race because this man cannot help but make everything a fucking competition for James, he ends the discussion by saying, hey, we've discovered another athletic activity where you need to get better and start winning. The way I dislike Mortimer, yeah. And it all starts from here mainly, and the chess scene from before. After the morning run with Mortimer, the great fatherly love moment we get between the two, we cut straight to that investors meeting that he mentioned. James is delivering an almost flawless speech about young Beaufort, the new branch of the company. We get a bit of context of how things work in their world. There we see Lydia mouthing every single word of James's speech. We get a clue that maybe young Beaufort was her whole idea and she's just not allowed to be the poster child for it because, as Mortimer puts it, she just has a weakness for making mistake after mistake and he's kind of tired and fixing said mistakes. It is also this scene where we find out that it is through Cordelia that they are the Beauforts. This man has married into this family. Remember that for later, okay? Cordelia also mentions here the watch that her great-great-grandfather owned when he started Beaufort 125 years ago, so we understand the family tradition and status that these people have. The whole scene is giving Succession in the best way and the worst way possible. To juxtapose this whole family scene, we are now with Ruby and Amber, and after an all-nighter, she successfully transforms that dress from episode 1 into a Victorian-ish dress for Ruby's poster. It's very cute, she's worked very hard on it, and Ruby starts ironing the dress as she texts the party planning committee group like, yo, I fixed it, and without James's help. James texts back and he's like, the dress looks pretty okay, but I wonder who the seamstress is. That sewing machine looks like it belongs in a dumpster. James, that was so uncalled for, my man. How dare you speak like that about Amber? Mind your manners. As he texts this, he distracts Ruby enough that she lets the iron fall on the dress and it burns a hole right through all of Amber's hard work. Amber kinda hears the whole thing because the dress starts a live fire in Ruby's room. She bursts in and you would think that she would throw a temper tantrum after being exhausted and working so hard on that dress, but she doesn't. There is such a sweet moment between the two of them. Ruby starts apologizing and is very panicked, and Amber just like holds her and they start laughing because Amber asks, do you think you can still use it? Very sweet, and I'm glad that we have a healthy sisterly dynamic over here. Class is once again in session. Who thought this would come back? Although it should say Oxford Prep, but let's ignore that. They are discussing philosophy again, and just like last time, I need to look at my notes because it's not just Lydia and Ruby talking now, it's multiple characters. So just stay with me through this. Their first question up for debate is, if you can provide a rationale for your actions, does that validate your actions as rational? Lynn jumps in first and says, feelings can also motivate actions. How many emotional decisions do we make every day? Alistair, our king, every single time Alistair speaks, I'm like, our king, he's just so precious. I love him. I cannot help it. Alistair responds and poses the problem that maybe it's a little strange that we make a distinction between emotion and rationality, as if the head and the heart have nothing to do with each other and are mutually exclusive. Lydia learned something in the philosophy class from earlier and says that if you act according to principles that you think are rational, but you suffer for it, are your actions rational? Girly Pop is like thinking about her decisions and whether they are rational or not. Ruby states that just from this discussion alone, we can see how different people have different principles, and that she would personally never consider an action that made her or anyone else suffer. James, just like in the book, I don't think he even means to jump into this discussion, but he just cannot help it. He's had enough of this moral superiority act, and he points it out and goes, there are certain principles that apply universally. They're called axioms. He then gives an example, like if you had 2 job offers and one is a better paid job, the rational decision is to take the job with more money, even though it might make you miserable. Ruby throws shade and says, unsurprisingly, if your sole motivation is money, then I guess, yeah, you take the better paid job. James gets worked up and says, you don't even know me, and second, people won't be interested in you if you don't have money. Ruby,
this is in the middle of the class.
This is in the middle of the class. These guys cannot help it, but when I said sparks flying, it's here that they really like.
All right.
Yeah.
I see that.
Yeah. Shots fired on all sides, honestly. But Ruby replies by saying that if you are told that all your life, of course you would think nothing else, and it's pretty pathetic actually. The teacher tries to break this passionate discussion off, saying that maybe we shouldn't get so personal, but James throws more shade and he's like, that's quite an opinion to have from your tower of moral superiority. Ruby continues and says, at least I don't go all my life thinking I'm superior, treating everyone like rubbish because they don't have my bank account. That works for you, does it? James goes, you try to control everyone without having money. How's that been working out for you? Ruby rips this man apart. I feel sorry for you. Do you want to spend your whole life representing wealth to which you contributed absolutely nothing? With so much money, there is no need for your own ideas. Your inheritance, your little pranks, it just shows how empty you are. And that's why no one will ever be interested in you, only in your money.
Ouch.
Things got pretty intense there. Are we all okay? Because James isn't. He just storms out knocking a chair. Like, it's dramatic and I love it. Miss Ruby Bell here has struck a chord and
she won this round.
She won this round. Just like the debate before with Lydia in Sutton's class, Ruby has won this round. But also, I'm glad that we get this outburst from her because they are allowing her to have flaws. By all means, she should be throwing shade at James. It's been, in the book, it's been weeks of this back and forth little torture of James pressuring her to not talk, and how much more clear can she be? She really doesn't want anything to do with these people. And can you blame her for this outburst? But also, she did take some low blows. She really struck where it hurt for James, and I don't want to say she was unnecessarily cruel, but she did have an inappropriate reaction in a very public setting. Class dismissed again. I don't know about you, but I need to breathe after that scene. But do I get to catch a break? No, because I have more Lydia Sutton drama to deal with. These two have a secret meeting in their local cafe or something, and Lydia tries to talk about the plan, what will they do when the information finally comes out from Ruby or otherwise. Sutton pulls I'm the adult in this situation, you can't leave your life behind, we can't run away, all that. He tries to be the responsible adult, but mister, you've been sleeping with an 18-year-old. You, by no means, you are not the wise man in this situation.
Did he wait until she was 18? That's my question.
Unclear.
I guess the less we know.
No, actually, you don't even want to get into that, because in the book, this thing has been going on for 2 years. I think in the show too, and I didn't even think about that calculation up until now. Because
let's move on.
Let's move on, because at this point, I'm like, she's 18.
So this and she was 16.
Mm-hmm.
Even if she's 18, he's adult, he's her teacher. Nothing to root for here.
Lydia tries to save the situation and stop the inevitable breakup happening in this scene, and she says that she lost favor with her dad anyway, and what's the point of staying around? And this is also somehow not her first rodeo. We need to move on from this situation because I'm just gonna get more worked up about Sutton, and I did not edit a photo like Mortimer's for Sutton, but maybe I should have. We cut to a party at unknown whose residence. I think in the book it's Cyril's party. We might be at Alistair's place in the series. No idea, but not relevant. The most important thing about this scene is the friendship between these two. Our angel, Alistair, he's on the couch moping about the situation with his boy toy. He's making a profile on the dating apps, and James here, our ally, we love him, he tries to help Alistair, and Alistair is like, 3 words to describe me, and James goes something with stallion, like
Wow. Is that how you think about your friend? Alright.
magnificent stallion. We love him, but he pours shots and we get the feeling that this is how they process emotions. Alistair tries to do away with the conversation about his boy problems and points out that James and his personal drama is much more interesting than whatever he has going on right now. James is like, nah man, I just want to drink and forget about it, and Alistair makes sure that James is okay after the whole outburst in class, and he also points out that he's never seen Ruby so out of control either. That's that at the party, but I just love Alistair. I don't know what to tell you. It's now the next day, and Ruby has a little cute moment with her dad. She talks to him about making mistakes and how do you apologize to someone after you've said something hurtful. Already in the Oxford prep class, as James stormed out, we saw a little shot of Ruby and how she understood that she hurt this man with her words. But through the cute little moment with her dad, she decides to go apologize to James, and she goes to the lacrosse field. This is one of my favorite scenes again, and once again, one of the scenes that the fandom is going crazy over. She finds James on the lacrosse field. She starts to apologize and says that it was unnecessary and she's really sorry for what she said. He turns his head in awe when he hears the apology, and in the book we have these little moments where James cannot genuinely figure Ruby out, and he is intrigued by her so much that he also thinks to himself, like, he's being called a rich bastard and all the bad things in the world by many people, but he cannot for the love of God figure out why he's so bothered by Ruby telling him that. And here on the lacrosse field, as she apologizes in the book, he tries to read on her face, like, find anything, like, why is she apologizing? He just cannot compute. And once he realizes that the apology is genuine, he's like, okay. She tells him that the Victorian party was really the superior idea, which is also surprising to James, because who in his life admits is wrong? No one. This whole behavior is like leaving James speechless. After the apology, she goes to leave, and he stops her by asking about the dress. In the book, this whole apology happens after that first party planning committee meeting, and once again, he cannot explain his own behavior. He kind of just wants to reciprocate the kindness, and he's like asking about the dress to see if he can help, and it's very cute in the book. He's like, I don't even know why I asked. I have no interest in helping this woman, but I guess I'll just put it on the table. And it's very cute because when that conversation is over in the book, he's like, suddenly asking my parents doesn't seem like such a hard thing to do anymore. On the lacrosse field, he asks about the dress, and Ruby goes, well, it burned. And they have a little laugh about the fire that she started in her room, and she just ends that conversation with, you can't win all the time. This leaves James in shambles. He, once again, Ruby acts so differently from every single person in his life that he cannot help but fall for her, quite honestly. This is where he fell, and he fell hard. Next, he is drawing her from memory in his little sketchbook. I didn't mention this in the party planning committee meeting, but we get the he's an artist scene where he stands up from his chair in the back of the meeting and he draws like the silhouette of a woman in a Victorian dress, and he's like, that's gonna be the poster, babes. And I cannot help but love this man, because prior to loving James Beaufort, I loved Troy Bolton in High School Musical, and this man is also an athlete heartthrob with passion for arts. Troy Bolton was good at dancing, James Beaufort is good at drawing, and I'm vibing with it. What can I say? But drawing her from memory, this man. There's something about James. In the book, he just doodles, and I appreciate that in the show it's much more. Like, he is talented. Mortimer struts into the room and invites James to a golf match. Now, time for a little quiz for Petra and the audience.
I have no idea how to play golf. What the hell?
No. I'll give you some time to think about this one, okay? Mortimer invites James for a golf match. Is it A, a nice fatherly gesture from Mortimer and an opportunity to spend time with his son? B, trying to find another athletic activity that James could lose at? C, pimping out his son while playing golf, followed by a business lunch with some investor and his daughter?
I was sure it's B, but now I'm like, it has to be C. It's so fucking evil that it has to be C.
If you answered C, congrats, you drink double. Welcome to the Mortimer Beaufort has turned me into an alcoholic scene, because from now on I need a drink every single time this devil is on scene. Lydia shows interest in this golf match too, but Mortimer does away with a line like, it's fine, it's a double match we're playing, so I'll take you out to golf some other time. We're now on the golf course, and they actually look like they're having fun for a while, until Elaine Ellington and her father show up. Mortimer goes on to say that, hey, we need the Ellingtons' investment in young Beaufort to secure our final investor, so you just have to sit here and look pretty, and we can broker the deal. You don't even have to do much, because Elaine already has a huge crush on you. You just sit there, and that's all. It's sort of a heartbreaking scene, because we see James switch from I'm maybe having fun with Papa Mortimer to his stoic, all business James look the moment he realizes he's just there to be pimped out by his father. Mortimer goes on to present the perfect scenario for their dynasty. He just tells James that the level of prestige that the Ellingtons have is hard to find. And as I said in the beginning of the video, Cordelia and Mortimer in the book would love for James to marry into such a family. It's here that we get another one of James's inner monologues. I always thought there were two ways to end a game in life, victory or defeat. Your king either stands or falls, and a Beaufort will always fight to the end to remain standing. I had never considered the third option, a draw, a stalemate, and that perhaps it is precisely the moment when two kings bow to each other, and that shows true greatness. After the golf match, this man texts Ruby. We already got a feeling from his inner monologue that he was thinking about how she said, you can't win all the time, which is a very different mentality than this tax bracket usually has, and specifically Mortimer. So he texts her and he's like, I arranged access to the archives in London. We can go and see the gowns. He signs his name with his initial, J. She goes, are you serious, or am I going to be ambushed by strippers in London? R. How do we get to London? RB. Standing for Ruby Bell. Just wait and see. He signs JB. My chauffeur will pick you up. JMB. Ruby goes, aren't you 18? You didn't have time to get your driver's license yet? P.S. How many initials do you actually have? RJB. Apparently, as many as you do. JMB. When do we leave? How about right now? And we hear a honk. This man came in his Rolls Royce to pick Ruby up from her house and get her to London to get that freaking dress for the poster for the stupid charity gala. James Beaufort. End of episode 2. Hello again! We're back for episode 3. My outfit changed because why not? And Mortimer is still the devil. James looks slightly different because I forgot to put his picture up from the golf match, but now he's there and he looks like that. Get used to it. Not too much, maybe the picture will change again, who knows. But yes, I don't know which day of recording this is, but welcome. Let's get into episode 3. We open episode 3 right where we left off with episode 2. We hear the honk and James is obviously outside with Percy waiting for Ruby to pick her up and go to London to see the Beaufort archives. Ruby texts him, "Give me 1 minute." She frantically looks through her clothes, finally puts together an outfit. And, I didn't mention this before from last episode, but when they were texting, in the book the scene is slightly different. There's a different timeline of events. The plan to go to London happens a couple of days before, during a party planning committee, after Ruby apologizes to James. Actually, there's that whole scene. In the book she doesn't go to the lacrosse field, she apologizes after a party planning committee meeting. And that's when James says like, "Yo, let's go to the archives." But in the texts that night when they are planning for the archives, that's when the JMB appears for the first time, his M initial. And Girly Pop here, I just want to mention that she has a moment where she's like, "I wonder what the M stands for. Should I Google him?" And then she's like, no, that would be so weird. I don't need to know more about this man. I don't need to Google him. Plus, I don't want to see all the stuff that the press says about him because I hear enough in school. So, yeah, just that M. Let's pay attention to what the M could be for. As Ruby gets dressed, this is where we get another piece of inner monologue from her. "I've always been fascinated by the concept of camouflage in biology. Camouflage is so good that hunters miss their prey because they are completely blend into their surroundings. But camouflage only works as long as the predator doesn't know what to look for, and as long as you don't want to be found." Maybe Ruby doesn't want to be so invisible anymore. Maybe specifically invisible to James. Maybe she isn't. I particularly love this inner monologue because it's not much, but it's honest work. No, I like it because in the book, in the car scene that's gonna happen next, he calls her a chameleon. And I think this is why this camouflage inner monologue happens. And it's exactly what I've been saying. Like, these things don't happen verbatim in the book, but they are there and they are very true to who the characters are in the source material. So I love that. Just a piece of information about this whole camouflage thing, she said. She gets into the car and just like in the book, James is on the phone trying to sort out the last of the details for them to go to the archives and have the dress prepared, or dresses, God knows. This is where we get a scene in the book where Ruby gets in the car and it's a Rolls Royce, it's fancy, the partition is up, and this is the second or first mention of Percy looking like Antonio Banderas in the book, and her mom notices too, which is very cute. And when she gets into the car, she tells James to break off the awkward silence after he's done with his business calls. She says, "Your driver could be a movie star." And the voice in the speakers in the car like booms and kind of scares her a little bit. And it's Percy saying, "Thank you, miss." James has a little laugh because he points to the button to the mic because the partition is up, and he's like, "Yeah, well, that means it's on." And they have a cute little moment about it, and he tells Ruby like, "I'm sure it's fine. He doesn't get compliments from me that often, so I'm sure he's happy right now." After they break the silence with this little Percy situation, in the series this doesn't happen with Percy, but it's instead a joke about Ruby meeting King Charles, And James bullies her a little bit, and he's like, yeah, we might meet him, so you gotta do a curtsy and act nice. And she's like, what? Like a bit panicked, and looks at herself, like how she's dressed. She's in a casual outfit. She looks normal, but probably a bit improper for meeting the crown prince. But then he's like, no, I'm laughing. We won't meet him. It's okay. And then we go into a conversation that I love both in the book and in the series. She starts poking fun at his lifestyle, alluring to the, how could I be sure that we won't meet King Charles? Like, there's so many rumors about you around school. He's like, what rumors? She's like, don't pretend you don't know. And he's like what? And they go into this. She tells him, so is it true that you bathe in champagne, eat caviar, and break waterbeds during sex?
Oh, okay.
He laughs and he's like, okay. So usually there's only just a little bit of truth to rumors. For example, I hate caviar. I find it disgusting. The champagne thing, I was at a party and I broke a bottle of very expensive champagne in Ren's parents' pool, one of the guys, and then took a swim. And about the bed, it was a normal frame. Ruby here, just like in the book, she's like, how boring. But important mention from the book, Ruby kind of can't help but think about what took for that bed to break. And I just want to point that out, that Ruby is maybe warming up to James or just having spicy thoughts about our men here.
I mean, she's a teenage girl. She's allowed to do that.
Yes. Is it here where I should mention that James finds Ruby kind of spicy in the book as well? So after the apology at the party planning committee thing, she bosses him around in that meeting a little, and his inner thoughts are, I want to respond to her, but I kind of like when she speaks strictly to me. I find it a little spicy, but then he immediately doesn't let that thought go anywhere, and he's like, nah, it must be all this pent-up energy because I'm not playing lacrosse, and I also haven't been partying with the boys. Obviously, it's not feelings I'm developing. So now we know that James Beaufort canonically fucks, and Ruby thinks about it as well. It is also in this conversation where James tries to get to know Ruby a little bit. He goes, you know what's really interesting? How there's almost no rumors about you. Like, no one knows anything about what's up. Because obviously this man did his, or tried to do his research about her to try to exploit something or blackmail her with God knows what information with this Lydia situation and try to fix that, but there's nothing about Ruby. She responds, that's not a coincidence. I've been meticulously keeping myself invisible so I don't get in any trouble with you people. It's also here that James asks her, like, how long have you been studying at Maxton Hall? And she goes, 2 years. He's been there for 5, I think, but he does think to himself and also tells Ruby in the car, like, I wish I noticed you before. Like, how could it be that I never noticed you? I'm like, boy, scum of the earth here for you. You would never have noticed her if it wasn't for the Lydia Sutton situation happening. But I do kind of love that at least he ponders on it. He's like, almost saying to us, you're so special. How the fuck did I not see you before? But that's how it is. And I kind of love that the story is what it is. We're in the trenches again. He asks her like to tell him something about herself that no one else knows, which isn't that hard, quite frankly, because other than Lynn and arguably James now, Ruby doesn't really have friends at school, so who would know anything about her? Lynn doesn't know her that well in the series either, and quite honestly not in the book either as well, whatever. Yes. Ruby gets candid for a second and she starts telling James about Oxford. In the book it's prompted by him telling her that if he doesn't get into Oxford his father will most probably kill him. And I think it's supposed to be a joke, but knowing Mortimer, no. But she bounces off of that in the book and starts telling him about Oxford and how it's her dream. She really wants to study there and be taught by Nobel laureates and study where Margaret Thatcher and Oscar Wilde studied. And we know how passionate she is about Oxford, and she starts telling James about it. Both in the book and in the show, he is mesmerized by this and thinks to himself like, wow, no one is this passionate about anything in his circle.
Especially Margaret Thatcher. That should actually mention her.
Not now.
Oh,
No, but and not Ruby. But good question. But later. We'll talk later. In episode 6. We'll talk in episode 6. His face. He delivers this with his face in the show, not his...
What do you mean with his face?
With his face, yes. Because my notes are prior to reading the books. I was right about so many things just because of this man's acting. I love it. And hers, actually. Yeah. So after Ruby gets candid with James about Oxford, we can read on his face the fascination with her and how he realizes how important these opportunities are, like the scholarship to Maxton Hall and going to Oxford, how important these things are to people like Ruby who are not born into privilege. Like, he has his own problems, but it also, this discussion with Ruby in the car brings him down to earth a little bit, and he's like, wow, like, things matter to people. Other things that I never considered matter to people, and to Ruby specifically. And he's becoming a better person, you may say, through this little friendship that is beginning here. But another thing from the book I want to mention before the car ride is over, because it's almost done. Because they have the 2 days in between going to London and planning for it, Ruby jokes with him that instead of champagne, she would like Ben and Jerry's. She would like some ice cream in the car, since they are taking his limo. And it's a joke, and she doesn't think too much about it, but this man brings the ice cream. And they eat ice cream to London.
I actually feel like Ben and Jerry now, thank you.
A sudden break in traffic makes the notebook that James has with him fall, and it falls open to the page that he had been doodling on when Ruby got in the car at her house. This is where she sees that he was drawing her house as they were waiting in the driveway. He keeps on drawing things, either her or things relating to her. I just love it and wanted to point that out. Anyway, we get to the archives, and as we get out of the car, in the book there's this whole thing with how fascinated Ruby is and how she's looking all around. I think it's her POV chapter, and she sees the name scattered all over the building like Beaufort, and it's magical, and it's all this luxury and beautiful architecture and the old building. She's admiring everything. In the show, the actress delivers the same thing. In addition to that, we also have James just looking at Ruby like, oh my god, this is so awesome for her. Like, she's so cute. This is so usual to him. He doesn't think twice about all of these nice things in his life. Meanwhile, Ruby is like jaw on the floor, just looking at everything, including all the costumes on display at the archives as they enter. She also notes here the way that he acts around these people that work for him and the way that people react to him. He has this in the book, not in the show. He is very warm and he's having fun with her and watching her look around. But in the book, he has the Beaufort arrogant face on, and she thinks to herself, oh my god, all these people around him are so afraid of him. I wonder if he notices. And she does read on his face a hint of sadness, because he is aware of how people react to the Beaufort presence and the Beaufort air around him, and I don't think he's very happy about it. And in the car, she sees him for the first time as she gets in, and she sees how nice he looks. Everything about him screams money. The suit fits him perfectly. He has a signet ring, and the ring comes up in book 3 in a very good scene. I cannot wait to get us there in a future video. But when you take a closer look at him, you see how tired he is. And these feelings don't break through that facade that much, and it takes attentive people like Ruby and Alistair to notice these things about James. As they take the tour of the archives, Ruby spots the Victorian dress that Tristan, I think his name is, I don't know if it's mentioned in the series, but Tristan has put out the Victorian gowns, and one menswear costume is also there. Costume? Suit. These are real suits that people were wearing at the time. Ruby sees it and fixates on this one beautiful dress. It's pink in the show. We'll see it in a couple of seconds. But she goes to it and starts telling James like, oh my god, I saw this dress in the Victoria and Albert Museum because Amber made me go a bunch of times because, remember, passion for fashion. In the show, James has this idea of Ruby trying the dress on, and she tries to come up with all the logistics, all the possible reasons why she shouldn't try it on. It's expensive, she doesn't want to damage it, blah blah blah. He's like, come on, when are you gonna get another chance like this? She looks at him and she's like, okay, but only if you join me, pointing at the men's suit next to the dress. And my babies start having a costume party, and I love the scene. But before we get into the beautiful montage that follows, we need to discuss the differences in the scene from the book. It's Tristan that tells James to go get dressed. So it was already a plan in the book that James would get dressed in the suit. And after Ruby sees James and has a moment of like, wow, he looks like a gentleman from like the previous century. Vavavoom. That's when Tristan and James look at Ruby and they're like, come on, get dressed. And she's like, no, no, thank you. But clearly it was a plan all along in the book to get both of them in the costumes, I guess, for the poster. In the series it's a bit changed, but it's the same result and the same beautiful moment between the two. Ruby gets dressed and she makes her way down the stairs from the dressing room. This man is sat at the piano. Unclear if he can actually play said piano, but he is there. As he sees her descend the stairs, we get this beautiful slow-mo shot of his face, of Ruby. Beautiful music is playing. I don't think I mentioned how iconic the music is in this show. They really make some good choices. And this is one of the scenes where the choice is perfect. He is in complete awe. His jaw is on the floor. If he fell for her on the lacrosse field, this just cements his feelings. You can read on his face that he's like that. He fell hard, and I'm here for it. And they have this cute little moment playing dress up. Of course, he plays the perfect gentleman. They even dance a little in the book, and Ruby keeps telling to herself that like, oh my god, I cannot dance, I cannot with this whole situation, but she's vibing with it. They are vibing hard, and Tristan starts taking pictures of them because James is like, can you take some pictures? Her family would love to see this. It's not initially for the poster, note that, but pictures happen. As they are having a moment and they are getting closer and closer and they are about to kiss, we hear a James in the book. Can I have this moment? Can I enjoy it? And can I enjoy these freaking kids falling for each other? No, because the devil shows up. Mortimer is there with Cordelia in the book, and Cordelia doesn't bother me that much, quite honestly. She's nice in the book, but And in this scene, she's harmless. She doesn't say nothing almost. But Mortimer! I'm getting so worked up. I need a drink. I did tell you this is the video that turned me into an alcoholic, perhaps. I blame Mortimer.
Okay.
Look at him. I should have switched the freaking... Can you pause it? Everyone knows the insanity going on around here, but I'm still shy, I swear. Yes, the Leo in me cannot carry all of this. It's not my sun sign. Do I get to enjoy this moment? I ask you. Do I get to savor this and see my kids falling for each other? No, because freaking Mortimer shows up and ruins the whole thing for me, for Ruby, and for James. And for everyone watching. He shows up with Cordelia, and in the book, listen, he is still the devil in the book, but it takes some time to find out just how bad he is. It doesn't happen here at the archives in the source material, but it is here in the show that my disappointment and hate, quite frankly, hate for Mortimer, like, there's no going back. I just can't with this man. In the book, he says nothing. He just sits there. Here, he manages to body shame and class shame Ruby.
What do you mean body shame? Like, how dare he?
I know, right? He goes, that dress was made for a queen. And he tells James that he gets his little rebellious phase happening because he's a teenager. But also, why involve this poor girl? Mortimer being Mortimer, why is he so pent up and tense in the morning or / afternoon? I don't know. One, he is Mortimer and he doesn't have a relaxed muscle in his body. Two, we find out that James skipped the business lunch after the golf match. He's doing the little costume party instead of the very important business lunch. And obviously Mortimer feels a certain way about it. Mortimer proceeds to body shame Ruby, saying that the dress is a little tight around the breasts. Compare this to the scene in the book where Mortimer stays silent, but you can feel the disappointment and everything. And in Ruby kind of feels the tension between him and James in the scene. James completely switches from actually having fun and them having a moment to the Beaufort facade, the arrogance, the I don't care about nothing, dead behind the eyes thing. James instantly switched when he heard Mortimer walk into the room. Cordelia in the book is such a nice presence here in the scene because just like in the series, she tries to save face after Mortimer's freaking comments, and she tries to excuse James, like, his behavior, and she's like, they can use the pictures they took for like a little campaign, like a retrospective before the launch of young Beaufort. It would be cute. But Mortimer cannot be moved from his whole thing and attitude and personality and everything wrong with this man. I cannot with him. I'm getting what? Fuck Mortimer. But Cordelia in the book, she's so sweet. She's like, hey, Tristan, you need to make this and this modification because the dress doesn't fit Ruby right and she can barely breathe. And she's just being sweet. And Ruby here in the chapter knows that she wants to be Cordelia when she grows up. This woman has such a presence in the room. And yeah, I just wanted to...
She's the one who should be the head of the family.
She is. May I mention here again that it is Cordelia. She is the Beaufort here. His credits, God fucking damn it. I just another reason I can't stand him. Here I am taking another drink because I keep on talking about Mortimer and he just makes me spiral. I just can't. James has once again been ambushed by this man and he has no choice. Just like in his whole life. He has no choice but to sit there and take this man's shit. Ruby is low-key disappointed in this behavior because Mortimer has literally not been nice to her right now, and James just sits there. She's very disappointed. She rushes back to the dressing room. She changes, and as she makes her way out, James tells her, like, Percy is waiting for you. Ruby, in this moment, she feels humiliated because Mortimer did just humiliate her a little bit with the comment about the dress being made for a queen, not for her. Ruby is on the verge of another panic attack. That's what you can read on her face. But she manages to mock them a little bit, saying she had an unforgettable afternoon, and does a little curtsy as she makes her way out. She rushes outside, and in the book she notices how the people at the archives are looking at her, like pitying her a little bit. She makes her way out of there and she takes the train home, ignoring Percy completely. Pretending to be part of his world, even for 2 seconds, has backfired dramatically, and she feels horrible about the whole experience at the archives. Do I let them be in the costumes?
Yeah, let them be in the costumes. They look cute.
Okay, I will let them be in the costumes.
They stand out a bit more among the other characters.
Okay. Monday morning, Ruby sits down for a very grumpy breakfast. We get a cute scene of everyone looking around the table, like who's gonna talk to her, who's gonna ask what's going on. And I think it's her mom that mentions like that she hasn't been out of her room all day yesterday and what was up. She says like nothing, and then she heads to school. As she makes her way into school, she gets welcomed by a huge, humongous, gigantic poster of one of the pictures her and James took. She is mortified and low-key having another one of her panic attacks because everyone in school is looking at her. They are suddenly aware she exists.
Oh no.
And our girl is an introverted queen who loves being invisible, and now her face is plastered all over school with James in the picture.
And they look hot together.
And they do. The poster is very cute, and she gets greeted by Lexington and Mr. Sutton. Lexington walks right into the scene and he's like, interesting choice with the posters. No one can say you didn't try. The panic attack she's having right now, I feel like as a person who suffered from panic attacks, it's very validating to see it displayed on screen like this, because like the noise is muffled around her. She feels like she's low-key drowning, and she just can't focus on anything. She finds James and the obliviousness of this man, because remember, the poster needed to go to print in 3 days from Friday for the whole thing to turn out alright for the party, and in his head, she looks good in the picture, he looks good in the picture, he solved the poster problem, so he's completely confused by her behavior right now. He's like, what's wrong? Like, I did something nice, didn't I? Ruby, God bless her, cannot see that he wanted to make a nice gesture and sort of also apologize for the way he treated her on Saturday. And she tells him, in the panic she's feeling and all the people talking about her at school, she just tells him maybe it was better the way things were before. I want to go back to the way things were. James takes again his like stoic stance, but he does seem and feel affected by this in the book as well. And he's like, we were going back to before. And he's processing all this, but she rushes out of there, and it is a bit of a sad scene after the moment they just had at the archives. But let's not forget that she did endure humiliation by his father. So can we blame Ruby? No. Lynn finds her and she tries to console her and asks like, what's up, are you okay, and what happened with James, because we all saw the poster. And Ruby, still distressed about everything happening to her all in a mere couple of days, she sort of has another outburst just like the one in class, and this time unprovoked. Lynn tells her that she shouldn't let anyone treat her like trash, and Ruby just takes a completely unnecessary jab at Lynn, and she's like, you would have treated me the same way if it weren't for your family losing all their money. And I'm like, girl, that's just unnecessary. Lynn is trying to console you, but she is worked up about things. And as I said before, I do like that our main girlie has flaws. It's fine. She is a complex character as well as this man. And one of her flaws is that she just has these outbursts at the completely inappropriate time and sometimes at the inappropriate people. Lynn is offended and walks out of there. Ruby makes her way to the Oxford prep class and James isn't there, but Alistair, Cash, Ren and Cyril are there, and Cyril cannot help but make a little joke about her being late. And I just can't with him. I don't know who the Cyril stands are out there, but if you exist, just why? He makes a little joke like, are you late because you had a little quickie with James before class? Need I remind you that she's still panicking and still having the worst day ever? And the teacher also makes her rehearse the interview scenario, and she takes her in front of the class and asks her to answer why does she want to go to St. Hilda's college at Oxford, and Ruby is again still full panic mode. You can feel the walls closing in on her. It's so anxiety inducing and she's almost crying. This time Ruby rushes out of there because she keeps on hearing everyone talk about her and James and giving her looks, and she just can't cope with it and just runs out of there. After Cyril makes the joke, Alistair, our baby, he just hits him with a piece of paper, and he's like, stop, man. We love Alistair. He's there for James and starting to be there for Ruby as well. And I just... Alistair. Need I say more? Ruby gets home from school and she has another cute scene with her dad. And I'm glad they are building up their relationship because it is important in the context and to juxtapose with James's family situation. We hear the doorbell ring. Ruby goes to check who's at the door, and as she goes out of the house, she sees James sitting outside of the fence to their property. I just want to know, did he rush back? Do I need to imagine James Beaufort ringing the doorbell and then running past her gate and her little fence to wait for her there, not in front of her house?
Casually walking there.
Casually walking there, yes. I just feel like the editing in this scene is particularly funny, but it's okay. The scene is serious, so let's switch the tone. He has, again, his little sad boy look. He looks like he's been crying or he feels very sad about certain things that have transpired over the weekend and today at school. And he begins apologizing, and he tries to offer an olive branch and be like, the boys are really not that bad, you just need to get to know them a little bit. And that's the way Cyril jokes. And there's a party at Alistair's place. She interrupts him and she's like, this is not what I want, this is your world. Maxton Hall, the archives, Beaufort, the lacrosse and the parties, this is your world. I don't fit in it and I don't think I want to. And to her, this has been enough backfiring this whole day at school and stuff. This is too much for her to deal with Because, need I remind you, 3 days ago, the fucking school didn't know who she was. And mere weeks ago, he didn't know. And it's just because of these freaking two. He goes to leave, but turns around and he's like, Ruby, you can't stay invisible, and you're not invisible anymore. Not for me. I just love the scene. She points out that she's now the laughingstock of the school, and James is like, no one is laughing at you. They just want to know who the girl on the poster is. They want to get to know you. Ruby reminds him that she was much more comfortable being invisible. James says that she's much too special to stay invisible. After that whole conversation with James, she makes her way back into the house, and Amber and her mom show up from like work and school, and they're like, yo, this was left for you at the door. James Beaufort gifted her that freaking dress and left a note with it. This dress has been made for you just 200 years early. Wear it to the fundraising gala. You look too beautiful in it not to. JMB.
Get the man who's gonna get you a 200-year-old dress.
Yes.
Give him to me, actually.
Yes. That James Beaufort, everyone. After they talk for a while, and get interrupted by like her mom, her sister showing up, everyone. Just like they are having a conversation, everyone keeps interrupting. But James finally says something like, I'm here to apologize for Saturday. And she's like, just for Saturday? Oh. And he's like, I'm certainly not gonna apologize for giving you a lap dance. And I'm like, James.
Okay.
James.
How does she get the dress for the party? How does she get the dress for the party?
Which party?
The one the cereal party, because it doesn't look like something she would wear. She went to H&M, okay.
No, she owns that.
Okay.
She has a closet. Although we see them just at school. Oh, when he shows up at her house, it's not only the bush of roses thing that he's smelling, and she's like, oh my god, he's kind of cute. Maybe I'm not that angry at him anymore. But he's also dressed casually, and she points it out, and she's like, oh, I think it's the first time I see him in not a suit or school uniform, and he's just wearing like jeans and a t-shirt. And she has this moment where she thinks to herself, he just looks like a normal boy. I don't think I would have recognized him on the street. And yeah. This man, I swear to God, it's a replica, by the way. 200-year-old dress, but it is a replica because these things and fabrics are much too fragile to be worn ever again. Looking at you, Kim K. The note is in English, by the way, which I know we went on the England tangent, but I just find it very amusing once again that everything else is in German, but his note to her, English.
Do they text in English or in German?
German. The texts are in German, yes.
I'm confused.
But this note, English.
Make it make sense.
I know, but it's okay. It's okay. Just as we've been used to, from the Bell residence, we cut to the Beauforts. It's Mortimer, Cordelia, James. Can't remember if Lydia is there, but sure. Lydia, Mr. Ellington, their father. They are walking out of a business meeting and everything seems to be fine. Everyone seems happy. They secured the last investor for young Beaufort. Everything is fine. As Mr. Ellington makes his way out, James and Mortimer have a little father-son conversation again. Mortimer says, congrats, you did a great job with the golf and this meeting. James scuffs it off and he's like, I thought I ruined everything with my little costume party. Mortimer replies to James and he's like, you should be thankful I interrupted your little afternoon because women like Ruby cannot keep the illusion up enough. They don't fit in our world and they cannot. James goes defiantly, how did you keep it up for so long? Once again, alluring to the fact that he is not the Beaufort in the family. Cordelia is. Mortimer gets very worked up about this because we can tell James struck a chord and he's like, until you contribute something to this family just like I did because the company was in ruin before me and your mother pulled it out of there and it was through my efforts alone, blah blah blah. Until you can say the same, you can keep your mouth shut.
It's giving Gossip Girl, but like a German.
I know, right? And I've just realized also that over these couple of days when I was making notes and reading the book, James feels like much less toxic. Actually, I take that back. Chuck Bass.
Yeah.
Chuck Bass coded.
But not
More
no
actually.
Allegations, nothing new.
Yeah, cleaner record. I feel like Cyril might be more Chuck, but we don't get to meet Cyril that way.
Mm-hmm.
He's Nate if he wasn't completely useless and stupid.
If he had a character.
Yes, Nate if he had any personality whatsoever. Yes. The conversation isn't over and James replies to Mortimer saying, it's not even my idea, Lydia should be taking the reins here. I'm not that invested, she made the whole presentation, she came up with the concept, why isn't she doing all of this? Mortimer quickly dismisses it and says that Lydia has just made too many mistakes and her reputation can put the whole brand in jeopardy and she's not ready for it right now and I'm not sure she will ever be. That's me saying it, not Mortimer. I think that's just how he's thinking right now. And I do agree with James. Lydia should have everything, all that attention, all the responsibility, because she wants it. But Mortimer is just reluctant to give her the reins. I don't know. My brain isn't braining today. It's just one of these days. We cut straight to Ruby at school, I assume the next day. As I mentioned many times, the timeline is not clear. But what can we do? We cut straight to Ruby back at school. She's in the schoolyard reading or something and she gets approached by the Oxford prep teacher. Remember, she rushed out of that class hastily? Is that? In haste. Thank you for your help. The teacher points out that she can't both aim high and stay under the radar, and she needs to get more comfortable with all the attention that the eventual success in her life will come with. I feel like this switches Ruby's perspective enough that she starts considering showing up to Cyril's party. We will see. You saw the carrot, you know what this means. Lynn is in the school lab, I guess. I don't know who lets these kids just use the lab freely. There's no teacher in sight and Cyril and another one of the boys make some shit explode even. Where is the supervision? These elite schools, you would think they have the budget. But Lynn overhears some girls talking shit about Ruby. Like, who is she? She's after his money. What is going on? And Lynn is a real one. I will remind you that Lynn is still a bit worked up and maybe mad at Ruby for talking shit to her for no freaking reason. But she defends her. Ruby is nowhere in the room and this is the kind of friend you want. The ones that have your back even when they're mad at you. She tells the girls that they need to work on their character because at any moment their money can just like disappear, just like it happened to her. And then what are you left with? Ruby walks into the scene and she's there to obviously apologize to Lynn about what she said the other day. And Lynn says it's okay, because she was kind of right. If she didn't lose all her fortune, she most probably wouldn't have looked at Ruby even for a second, and she would have stayed a mean girl. And yeah, things work out between these two. They made up. We're happy. We're back to being best friends. Now that the two best friends made up, we can talk about James. Ruby tells her that he invited her to Cyril's party and she doesn't know what to do, if she should go or not. And she also tells her about the way he treated her on Saturday, and that's why she's confused about his behavior. And Lynn goes, is this guy confused or what? Like, what the hell? And then, just like the Oxford prep teacher, she also tells Ruby that she needs to get used to the attention because the hottest guy at school wants her. Like, why not go show up at the party and show them who the hell Ruby Bell is? These two scenes combined motivate Ruby enough to actually work up the courage and maybe try to be part of his world again. We cut straight to Cyril's party. Lynn also tells her, once your reputation is trashed, you can live life unabashed.
Queen.
Yes, she's very cute. Oh, James, inner monologue, let's go. We are now at Cyril's party, and James is making his way through the crowd, and we get another piece of inner monologue from this man. Chasm? Is that the word in English?
Yeah.
C-H-A-S-M. Chasm?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe it's true. Maybe there is a chasm between my world and that of others, like a no man's land, and whoever crosses it in either direction is certain to get hurt. You need courage to go there, to stand up for what you want, but nothing is more tiring than the question if it had been a mistake to even try. He is walking around the party trying to find a moment of peace away from all of this and probably use that moment of peace to think about Ruby some more. But in trying to find an empty room in the house, he walks in on Alistair making out with Cash.
Oh no, who would have thought? Oh.
Remember when Alistair assaulted the guy on the lacrosse field because... Why? Because he almost broke Cash's neck one of the last games. Why do we think Alistair did that? This is why. Alistair's boy toy and boy problems all stem from Cash. Also, in the book, it's Ruby at the party that walks in on Alistair and Cash doing nasty stuff to each other. And she just like sprints out of there. James just has a surprise face, but like quickly closes the door, and he's like, okay, that happened, I guess it's okay, we move on. I wrote, James nods in an okay, this is happening, I'll leave you to it then, and closes the door. After that, he just sits down somewhere, and can he find that moment of peace he was looking for? No, because Elaine shows up like a freaking hawk and starts talking to him, and I want to say she's well-intentioned and all that, but I don't vibe with Elaine. And it is partially or entirely because I read the last chapter in this book and I'm not vibing with Elaine anymore. Not that I ever was, but now I have reasons. But she is there and she starts telling James, trying to console him, like, I also feel all the pressure that is on us, but a silver lining that I have is that one day it will all be ours and we will finally be in control. She, throughout this scene, is trying to like hold James's hand, and that's what I thought was happening initially. But on a second watch, she is actually giving his tense hand a massage, and she starts telling him that this is some technique she learned from a chiropractor in London. And I'm like, girl, what is going on? James could not be more uninterested in this situation. I don't even think he processes whatever Elaine is telling him. And the music is sort of muffled in the background. He is in his own thoughts. And as Elaine keeps on talking at him, he finally sees Ruby show up at the party. The whole thing is happening in slow motion again, and I love it. You can literally see his face soften. He is so happy to see her there, and the music starts being clear as well to us. I just love the editing in the scene. It's clear that she centers him. She does something to him that he's never felt before, and his POV chapters prove that. He also does something to her and makes her feel a certain way that she's never experienced before. And what do we think it is? Can we put our finger on it? They still can't.
Lust. It's definitely only lust.
Lust, yes. Infatuation,
At best.
as Mortimer says.
Yeah, he was onto something.
Yes. God. And I think he even makes sure, I can't remember if it was this episode or a future scene, but Mortimer is like, it's just, need I remind you that this is just a crush that you won't remember in 2 years from now? And I'm like,
Valid. Hey, teenagers.
fair, because they are teenagers, but also they are feeling big feelings for each other, and they are confused, and I love them. We are at the party. I'm so happy we're finally at the party. We kind of switch perspective, and we just saw how he reacted to her walking in. Now we get Ruby's inner monologue. When its cover is blown, the prey has only 2 options, fight or flight. But the thing is, once you've been seen, really seen, you might realize you're not as harmless and helpless as you thought. That you have spikes under the camouflage and don't have to hide in the shadows. She's probably becoming more comfortable with all of this. As I said before, character development? Perhaps. A drunk Lydia approaches Ruby before James makes her way to her. Lydia is pretty worked up about the situation she put all of them in, and obviously they still don't know Ruby and can't be sure if they will be blackmailed at some point with this information or not. And Lydia is just taking it out on Ruby a little bit, and she asks her if Cyril invited her. Ruby says it was actually James. And then Lydia goes, I see, you must feel pretty powerful then. You have James wrapped around your finger and you know about my little dilemma. But you know what? You can say whatever you want now. There is nothing to tell anymore. It's over. For good, thanks to you. Girly Pop here is a bit worked up and tries to blame Ruby for her breakup with Mr. Teacher over here. Lydia, baby, that's not the way to go, but whatever. I just want to mention that in the book, they still have this conversation, but Lydia also makes sure to get some doubts into Ruby's head, and instead of saying, I see how it is, you have James wrapped around your finger, it's the other way around in the book, and she says, so you're not telling anyone because of James, huh? I see how it is. It's okay, you're not the first one to fall for his charm. Oh, and I forgot to mention, another little difference from the book is that Ruby has slightly better motivations to show up at the party in the series through this prism of go show them who Ruby Bell is. It's okay, you need to get comfortable with being in the spotlight. Yada yada. In the book, she goes to the party for the completely wrong reason, because she overhears James and Alistair and Cyril, everyone, talk about the party after a party planning committee meeting, and because she's there talking with James about something, Alistair goes, yeah, Ruby, you should come. James says the completely wrong thing at the wrong time, and he's like, you wouldn't like it. And because she just went through that Saturday with him and all that humiliation and whatever, she's like, I can prove you wrong. You don't know what I like. I would like to come, Alistair. Thank you so much. And James is like, even in his POV, is like, fuck, I shouldn't have said that. Now she's gonna come there. And he does feel responsible for her at the party. Like, he picks her up from her house, drives her there and everything. And they show up together at this whole thing. And it's as Ruby tries to get comfortable with the partying that's happening around her, that's when she tries to like find a bathroom in the house, and that's when she sees Alistair and Cash hooking up. But that's in the book. In the series, after the conversation with Lydia, she turns around to try to make her way through the party and maybe find James, and James is already standing behind her. And girls, this is where we get the iconic scene. There's so many iconic scenes, but this one, he says with the softest face we have seen from James Beaufort so far, he looks at her and says, "You came." I'm like, damn, he's so happy to see her. I just can't with him. And she looks at him, smiles back and says, "I've been thinking, I think the past is overrated." He's like, okay. And then he takes her to the dance floor. And this is the iconic moment when they dance to Moth to a Flame. And it's just, it's just beautiful. I just love my kids falling in love. And I love my kids dancing. And I've seen so many fans being like, dancing scenes are usually very cringe on TV. But not this one. You kind of feel this one. And I showed Petra as well the scene, and she also.
Yeah, it was good. It was decent. You know, I love The Weeknd.
Literally, someone check my pulse, because I think I went into cardiac arrest. It's not only that they dance to Moth to a Flame, they also have a slow dance. And once again, the song choices in this series are just perfection. I don't know how else to describe it. So before I get even more worked up about this particular scene, let's further discuss the book chapter. In the book, because he feels kind of responsible for her at the party, she feels a bit guilty about it and says, "Hey, you really don't need to babysit me. You can just act the way you usually act at these parties." And he's like, "Okay, fair. However you want." He downs like 2 or 3 drinks. They do dance together. It is very cute, because as they make their way to the dance floor, Ruby is like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "You told me to act the way I usually act. I dance at parties, so here we are." While they dance together in the book, she notices all the people around them like whispering, talking. In the show, the whole dance scene gets interrupted by Elaine, because it doesn't even look that crowded in the room. But Elaine somehow manages to bump into Ruby and spill a little drink on her. And I'm like, Elaine, this is not how you get the guy. This is not the way. Ruby, honestly, her behavior here, I kind of vibe with it. Ruby, instead of being like, "Oh my god, what are you doing?" whatever, she's like, "Perfect timing. I was getting a little bit hot." James takes her out of there and they go by the pool. There, we get a bit of a hint that Ruby is uncomfortable and low-key panicking near water. And I have not mentioned this until now, but whenever she feels a panic attack happening, it is closely tied to water imagery. And they have been building this up since episode 1. I wonder why. James makes sure she's okay, and she says, "I kind of want to get out of here," and he notices how panicked she is. I guess it doesn't make sense in his head why, but it is because she's near the pool. But he's like, "Okay, I'll just go get my jacket and we can be out of here." Cyril sees James make his way out of there and try to leave, and he has no account for anyone's personal space and goes and like grabs Ruby and jokingly says like, come on, don't be a wet blanket, don't break off our party and take James. He used to sit here with us until 4 a.m. Cyril, our freaking idiot, throws Ruby into the pool. Our girl doesn't swim out. James realizes something is wrong and immediately jumps after her. He carries her out of the pool. Everyone has their phone out, taking pictures, videos, everything. Lydia even notes in the book that she herself doesn't think this is that serious, and as James jumps in the pool, the last thing he hears is Lydia saying, oh, it can't be that freaking serious. This is completely unnecessary. Let me tell you, it was necessary. Ruby is not swimming out because of trauma. This is where we find out what that accident with her father was. She's crying, barely breathing. He throws a look at Cyril that is so... it did something to me. I don't know. Just the whole protecting her, carrying her out, holding her like that, and taking a second to look at Cyril like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. This is not how you act around me or my girl, because this woman is becoming his girl. That look is everything. He rushes her to the car. He starts ordering Percy around. He's trying to just fix everything because Ruby is like completely distressed right now and barely breathing, barely making any sense. James tries to dry her down. She's not processing what he's saying in the book. Like, she asks her like, can you get your shirt and dress off and put the lacrosse hoodie and the towels on you? And she's not even responding. He just manages to put the lacrosse hoodie on her, get her into the car, and drive out of there. As she is freaking out in the car, we get the full story of why she's like that around water and why we see her feel a bit guilty around her father all the time. It's because when she was 8 years old, they went out fishing on their boat. She fell out of the fishing boat trying to get her teddy bear. She fell into the water. Her dad jumped in after her, but another boat hit him, and that's why he's in a wheelchair. And Ruby has been feeling a certain type of guilty about it ever since then. And it's heartbreaking, and it's been eating her inside for years, and this is probably the first time she ever talked to someone about it. And James is just completely... How do you respond to that? And they were also only beginning to be close. Ruby had just trauma dumped on him so hard that he's like, oh my god. But he also appreciates the moment because you need a certain level of intimacy to talk to people like that, and he does stay there in the car just holding her, calming her down, and it's just such a sweet moment between them, and it does bring them closer. They sit in silence the rest of the way home, James still holding her and brushing her hair, calming her down. Ruby falls asleep in the back seat in his lap, and they finally arrive at her house. Percy tells James, we're here, should I drive around the block again? James sits there, lets a tear fall, and says, I really don't know what I'm doing here, Percy. End of episode 3. Hello, welcome on board once again. Sure, okay. Are we ready for episode 4? Ruby is still in James's car. Is that English? James?
Yeah, it just...
It would be James' car, but I don't...
Car
that
of
sounds...
James.
The car of James. We open episode 4 right where we left off, with Ruby waking up with James still in the car. The scene evolves slowly and it's very cute. They start kissing, it gets a little bit hot and heavy, and it quickly turns into the worst thing ever for Ruby because everyone from the party is outside taking pictures, banging on their car door, and if you haven't pieced it together yet, it's a nightmare that Ruby is having, and she just woke up in the morning. But at least we have an indication that she thinks of James in her sleep. She's haunted by him in her dreams. She gets woken up by Amber getting into her room because her alarm has been going off for 10 minutes and woke up everyone in the house. Amber makes a little bit of fun about her and she's like, I'm sorry to have woken you up. You look like you were having a very nice dream. And she's still wearing the lacrosse hoodie from James from before. She rushes into the bathroom a little bit embarrassed by getting caught up like that in the morning by Amber and shuts the door. Amber follows her and through the door tells her, hey, be careful around mom and hide the hoodie because if she washes it, it will lose his smell. This is where we're gonna have a little Jeremy Fragrance moment, and welcome to the What Do We Think James Beaufort Smells Like segment. So, what I've done for this is I went into our local perfume store and took a few samples for me and Petra to smell on camera, and we will decide what we think this man James Beaufort smells like. Is it just because of the series and the lacrosse hoodie? I wanted to say yes, but after reading the books, there are a couple of scenes in the book where Ruby actually mentions noticing how nice James smells. And it's described always as a spicy and sweet fragrance. And I asked ChatGPT to make a list for me. I compared it, I went and smelled a couple, and now I have 5 options for Petra to smell. I will not tell her the names as she smells them. Only when we make a decision I will reveal what we think James Beaufort smells like. Let's go into the first one. There you go. Yeah, if you want you can even smell the agenda because I've been putting them in my agenda. The whole thing smells like it. It's very Ruby of me to like... Oh my god, imagine.
Why does it smell like something I know? Does anyone I know own this perfume?
Not this one, but the brand is... you know it.
Oh, my man smells like that?
Not like this specifically, but yes.
No, but I don't think it's his perfume.
Okay, fair. Alright, that was the first one, first impressions. We move on. Once again, I'm gonna imagine that. Imagine if Ruby did this and tried to go and figure out what James smells like and then perfume her agenda.
No, because she has no idea. Like, I don't think she even knows the brands, to be fair.
Why would she? Yeah, I don't know.
Like, not the expensive ones. No, this is not him.
This is not him.
No.
Okay, not
This
the
can
second
be,
option.
like one of his friends, but not him.
Okay. Cyril smells like this. Or Alistair?
Alistair, maybe.
Alright, there you go. Third.
I kind of can see this one.
Okay, same actually.
Based on the book description, I can...
Actually, same.
This one, yeah.
Okay.
This is the number 1 so far, and we have 2 more.
Okay, noted. Somehow I have a feeling that we will agree. And Lucy and Erica also went through this with me a couple of weeks ago. I showed them all the pictures I have printed out of James, and I was like, you don't need to know anything. Just look at these pictures. I spread them out.
Cyril.
This is Cyril?
Yeah.
You know what? 100%. I don't even need to re-smell this because I know what it is and it's 100% Cyril.
Is it Dior?
Yes.
Is it the fuckboy pregnant?
Yes, it's Dior Sauvage.
I'm that good.
But it could be what James wears at parties, honestly,
Yeah.
or before he meets Ruby. He could smell like Dior Sauvage.
That was the mystery one.
There you go. What's the mystery one? You just know one. I just told you one so far.
No, this is like, I would say, no, not him. Maybe older him, but not him.
Not him. Okay, fair. Yeah, we sort of agree. So, Lucy and Erica decided that he smells like Dior Sauvage,
No.
but they don't know the whole story. They don't have the full picture. They know the pictures I printed.
Yeah.
And we know how he looked 2 episodes ago.
Yeah.
Once again, I feel like yes.
But
James
about being using the fuckboy one. Like he's a fuckboy, but like
elevated.
he wouldn't be like too obvious. That's for the rest of the kids, you know.
Cyril wears Dior Sauvage.
He wants to be James, but he cannot be.
Yes, the one you were like, do I know this one? I honestly was rooting for it so hard because wouldn't it be fun if James smelled like Beau de Jour by Tom Ford?
Oh,
His name being Beaufort. I was like, oh my god, that's just fun because of the name. Then I gave the girls the second one you smelled, and the girls is Noir, not Noir Extreme. But they said that smells like Mortimer.
no, I gave it to our gay god somehow. I don't know why.
Our baby, our Adonis,
Yeah.
his angel, probably smells like Tom Ford Noir, yes.
Mm.
But for some reason I lost the Noir Extreme, but you know what that smells like. They were also like, that smells like a very mature James, or worst case scenario for me, like Mortimer. But James could pull off Noir Extreme. But I feel like he needs something more playful. And the one, my favorite, the one you think smells like James, is the new perfume by Boss. Jacob Elordi is the face of it. The scent Elixir. It has some cherry in it, but it smells like spicy. It's very much what Ruby describes.
No, I see it. Like
To me.
Definitely the one.
Yeah, same. Like
Jacob Elordi, Saltburn. They would be besties actually. His character in Saltburn and James.
yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
I see it. Okay, and the last one, not Sauvage, because I gave you that one. The last one is Bleu de Chanel, the Timothée Chalamet,
Oh yeah.
Martin Scorsese commercial.
Oh, this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I feel like it smells too feminine, a little bit. I think this brings us to the end of the segment. The jury is still slightly out on it. It's either he smells like Dior Sauvage. For some, for me and Petra, he smells like Boss, the Elixir. The what? The scent, the Elixir? Sure.
Jacob Elordi else.
The Jacob Elordi perfume.
What is it made out of? I don't know. Or Saltburn.
Or soap. Bathtub water.
Yeah.
Now that we know what James Beaufort smells like, we can move on to Ruby's inner monologue as she buries her head into the hoodie and takes a little sniff. I don't want anyone sniffing anything on this show.
Anthony Bridges in the realness.
I need a different... yes. Yes, but as Ruby enjoys a little moment snuggled up in the hoodie, we get another piece of inner monologue from her. Closeness and distance aren't always mutually exclusive. You can feel close to people who are miles away, or notice that you trust someone you thought you hated just 2 weeks ago. Our girl has maybe fallen for James too. Maybe.
Was her moment? Do we ever know when was her the moment she was like, oh, I like him?
Oh, let me think about it. Those are good questions. So in the book, it's riddled everywhere, these feelings they develop for each other, but both of them, it's like children. They don't know. It's love that is developing. Or they are trying to deny their feelings. And we literally have, for example, thank you for starting this discussion because I love yapping about this. because there's so many things in the book, so many little clues that the kids love each other. I love them. So in party planning committee meetings, I don't know, James, when he stops arguing with her or just like inciting her, that's when you get a feeling of, he's kind of maybe tired of making her unhappy or being unpleasant to her. It turns into playfulness. And he has a moment where he's like, arguing with her is so exhausting, I would rather just be nice. I'm like, James, you just say you want to be nice to her. Just say you want to begin being nice to her. Ruby has her little moments, but it's more physical attraction at first. When he stands close to her, when he tries to bribe her, that's when we get the first mention of how he smells. It's in the bribe scene because he's so close to her. She's like, he smells nice. What the fuck? And I'm like, yeah, he would smell nice. Look at him. And then what else? Like, clearly during the costume party, they are both like, oh my god, she's pretty, he's pretty. What is going on? And are we becoming friends? Question mark. Like, Ruby keeps on thinking, like, this is developing into something. And just as in this inner monologue, where she's like, you find yourself liking someone you hated 2 weeks ago. She has little moments in the book where she's also like, why do I think about him? I don't like him. I despise him. Like, why do I wonder what the M is in JMB? Why do I want to Google him? And it's the same for him. When he says no to the costumes, she's like, it's fine. I'll just look at some rental costume thing business in Gormsey in her town. And James, it's his chapter, and he just goes in his head, I wonder where she lives and what's her family life like and what type of house she lives in. But then again, he immediately stops that thought and he's like, why do I care about where this stupid girl lives? What's wrong with me? I'm like, babies, I will help you piece it together. You like each other. So those are moments up until now. Because after now we're developing the strong feelings and they started accepting them.
All right.
Are we satisfied with my answer?
A bit.
Yeah? You can ask me again in a few episodes. Beautiful. She writes a couple of different texts to James. And at first she types something like, thank you, it was really nice of you, ... Then she deletes it and ends up just saying, thank you. Simple and to the point. I think she nailed that one. In the book, there's a whole chapter, like a whole day at home with Amber and Lynn, and they are both freaking out. I guess Sunday? The party is on Saturday, maybe it's the next day, and she has a whole chapter at home with Lynn and her sister, and they are both like, dude, he carried you out of that pool. And we saw the videos online and the photos and everything. He was a true gentleman and took care of you, blah, blah. He clearly likes you. And she's like, no, he was just acting right or whatever. And that's when she texts him, but she also writes a couple of texts she goes through a couple of drafts in the book as well to make sure that she's like, are we friendly like that? Should I tell him that he was nice? No, just thank you will suffice. That's okay. I'm like, yes, okay, Ruby. Fair. After she sends the text saying thank you, we cut straight to James. He is in bed and he has a little pleasant smile on his face like, oh, I kind of like what happened yesterday. And we get his inner monologue now. I always thought I knew all the ways to lose control. Alcohol, sex, drugs. I never knew these were just games. Last night, I learned what it means to lose control of your own feelings. As he thinks this and tells us, a montage of the events that have transpired last night plays through his head, and he smiles again. This, clear moment where feelings are present. he reads the text from Ruby and they keep on texting back and forth throughout the morning. So, what?
No, I just saw the girl. What's the name of the actor that plays Aegon?
Tom Glencarney.
No, there are more than him and Olivia Cook fucked on the set, and I'm like,
That's just, no, oh my god. Okay, the thing is, I'm
I
like,
would love that. I would love
he's 29 years old, that's completely fine.
I mean, she's like 31 or something. There's not age difference between them, girl.
I love that. Who knew you were here for House of the Dragon rumors and tea? There's one that's also breaking me. They are playing father and son. Father and son.
You learn. You can say it. Girl, that's like the guy that plays Evan is 27. Oh my god, he's my age.
Yeah. I think Damien Hardong is 25 as well. They are our age. I love it. We took our time. And Petra managed to shock me with the other fandom news. Meanwhile, in this fandom, the only thing that preoccupies the fans is if Damien and Harriet, the girl playing Ruby, are actually dating in real life. And I'm like, I don't think we'll have a genuine answer to that because their relationship, they need to capitalize on their chemistry. So whether they are or they are not together, they are still... Some of it is part of the marketing for the series. The earworm for today is another song from the series, but Petra has not seen the... Actually, it's the song that's playing over these scenes now.
Oh, the Teen Wolf song.
No, that's in the car.
No.
That's later. This is now. Okay, 5 unusable minutes. So, Ruby texts James, thanks, signing her name RJB, just like they've been doing it last episode as well. James sees the notification and responds, smiling. You never told me what the J stands for. JMB. And I never will. RJB. You're avoiding my question, must be bad. JMB. Admit it, it stands for James. JMB. Your ego seems intact. RJB. I'll reveal my J for your M. Nice try. JMB. Then the tone switches a little bit, and in the chapter that this is happening in, Ruby also mentions here that the next text has no initials, so he is serious. Are you feeling better? Yes, but I'm nervous about today. Don't worry, most people only saw my wet back last night. Ruby pauses for a second and she texts, then at least they had a nice evening. Ruby Bell is flirting with James, and in the chapter, I don't even know, in the chapter when they are texting in the book, she doesn't send this one. She's like, are we friendly like that? Are we doing this? No, we don't seem like that type of people. I think. Who cares? Doesn't matter. I will check later. And I will cut if I'm not speaking truth. After Ruby sends the flirtatious text to James, she gets off the bus, and who is there at the bus stop waiting for her? James Beaufort. He looks at her smiling and he asks, Ruby Bell, are you flirting with me? I love them. He completely changes her mood. She's kind of alright at the moment, and because he's here, she feels a little bit more not so at ease walking into school. And in the book, I think it is made clear in one of his chapters that the reason why he picked her up from the bus stop was to help her and to help her navigate the craziness of everyone around school knowing her, because the videos of him taking her out of the pool and everything have gone viral because he is James Beaufort, and he now knows how she really feels about the invisibility thing. Our girl is definitely not invisible anymore. If she wasn't last episode, now the whole fucking school spotlight is on her. And as they make their way into school, literally everyone is staring at them. James pulls her closer when he realizes like the ugly looks she's giving everyone, and he's like, okay, girl, not like this. We're not doing it like this. I'm gonna teach you the Beaufort code of conduct, okay? Total nonchalance, no matter the situation. They have a bit more playful banter, and he puts up his Beaufort face that's just asking for a slap, and Ruby tells him, you just look like you need to be smacked. He responds playfully, and he's like, I might enjoy getting smacked. You don't know. But he takes out his phone and takes a few pictures of Ruby. I just love how many candids these people take throughout. Like, it's not just the pictures that are probably gonna bite Ruby in the ass later on, but throughout the series, everyone kind of has their phones out and just taking pictures of their friends, and I kind of love that. Make memories, babies. It's even with the boys. I think like Cyril and Ren and Alistair, they all like take their phones out sometimes and take some pictures of each other. And James and Ruby, like whenever he thinks she's cute or something, he takes out his phone and takes a couple of pictures. I just love that. Is this another cutesy scene between them? Yes. Until James hits us with such a deep truth that I'm like, oh my god, this scene is sad, actually. After he takes some pictures of her because she's cute with her little whatever Beaufort code of conduct attitude, he just says, with practice, you'll start believing it yourself. Trust me, I've been doing it for years. Bit sad when you really think about what the line means, because this fake it till you make it thing and the armor that he's meticulously built around himself and that Mortimer cracks all the time, and Ruby, but in a good way. This is eating at James's soul. I don't know how to describe it somehow else, and the more I think about the scene, I'm like, baby. Also rich kids problems, but
yeah, I'm like, I can't believe it.
But I do feel for James sometimes. They see the lacrosse team across the schoolyard, and Ruby notices here that James has this sad look on him. Like, he does wear the Beaufort face, but she sees that he is missing lacrosse, and maybe she will do something about it this episode. We will see. For some reason, Lydia isn't at school, and she's doing yoga on the Beaufort residence terrace. Who is texting her, but is kind of annoying her, like Lydia is just ignoring the texts? Ellington. At some point, she receives a voice message, and she's like, Lydia, just fucking respond or pick up the phone. Is he with the welfare case? Meaning Ruby. Elaine. I'm just disappointed in Elaine. What can I do? My disappointment continues when Mortimer enters the scene. Before I talk about Mortimer, because I feel like pausing, my stomach is turning. So why not tell you more about Lydia and my thoughts on the scene? Why isn't Lydia at school? For the love of God, I cannot figure out their school schedules. Like, Ruby and James are already there. She is not. I have yet to see the boys at school. I'm just confused.
They don't have to be there every day. Their parents are paying for it, you know?
I guess. You can take the morning off and do yoga. It's completely fine. Flexible school schedule. Mortimer comes onto the scene and offers Lydia a cinnamon roll, and he mentions that he ordered them specially from a bakery. I mean, I guess it's supposed to mean that it's a specific bakery she likes, and maybe the cinnamon roll is a peace offering. Is it? Is it? Of course it's not. And Mortimer manages to piss me off again. After he gives her the cinnamon roll, he does begin telling her, like, praising the young Beaufort concept and how it's everything Beaufort stands for. The clear creativity and passion and dedication and hard work. Beautiful. And that's why James needs to embody all of that in the press conference tomorrow. This man is being nice to his daughter only so that she would manipulate James to set his priorities straight. Because as Mortimer tells Lydia, like, great work with Beaufort, but James needs to take charge, He turns his iPad and shows Lydia a picture of Ruby and James from the pool. She tries to defend James, and I'm not even sure. James isn't freaking sure what's going on, but Lydia and James, we've established that they have a close relationship, and most probably Lydia put 2 and 2 together when James jumped after Ruby in the pool and everything, that he likes her. So she covers his ass here, and she's like, it was just a little prank. Mortimer asks her, what do you know about this girl? She tells him the truth, actually. No clue. She's just at school with us, and we might be in the same class. It's okay. It wasn't a big deal. It's just some stupid prank. Mortimer puts another nail in the coffin that is their relationship and says, maybe you should talk to James because you should know best how getting involved with someone that's wrong for you affects you, or need I remind you of the £500,000 that I needed to pay your boyfriend to keep these pictures he had of you to himself? Mortimer, why are you like this? And this is where I'm gonna make things sad and uncomfortable for everyone, because I'm gonna mention what this situation really is in the book. Because when I mentioned in episode 1 that James feels really sad about how Lydia is treated by her family and what she had to endure from the press, this is not just some nudes that her ex-boyfriend had. In the book, Lydia gets involved unknowingly with a journalist, and she's very young. This is prior to the Mr. Sutton thing, and we have a clear timeline about that, and I'm gonna get into it in a future episode. I think episode 5, we get a clearer timeline on that, so I'm gonna mention it there. But prior to this, she's like, let's say 15. God knows what that journalist, like what his age is, and she loses his misgendering everyone left and right. Why am I like this? She loses her virginity to him, and he's just, it's so freaking sad because he's just with her to get an expose on the family, and she did share like family secrets. They were intimate. She shared a lot of information about her family with him, and he freaking goes and writes an expose about it. And James, in that chapter, in the beginning of the series and in the book, that's what he's alluding to, that the press has been hard on them, and Mortimer ever since has been hard on Lydia, and that's why she can't be the heir to the Beaufort name. I don't know if it made it into the cut, but we are having another Lannister moment after the breakfast with Mortimer. Lydia walks into school and the music is very Lannister coded. If the Pride monologue was that, this music, I'm gonna show Petra later, the scene. Like, I feel a certain way about it. I'm like, oh my god, nice. Lydia makes her appearance at school finally, goes straight to James. Because of the music, it feels a bit ominous, and it's like, what is Lydia gonna do? Is she gonna do what Mortimer sent her to do? As in manipulate James and tell him, like, behave? But no. Our girl stays true to herself and to the healthy sibling dynamic that they have. And she warns James. She's like, you gotta be more careful with the Ruby situation. I don't know what's going on, but Dad is onto it, and it's not good for either of us. James is like, don't worry, I know how to take care of myself, and at least I'm not dating a teacher.
Ouch.
Ouch. Truly, ouch. From the scene on the hallway with the Beaufort twins, we cut to Ruby in a party committee meeting. Two of the mean girls are trying to bully her or like push for some information, and they corner her, and they're like, so did you do it in his limousine or outside after he carried you out of the pool? And is it true what people say about him? And I'm like, oh no, you can't do James Beaufort dirty like that, come on. Ruby has taken notes from James, and she activates the Beaufort nonchalance and just says whatever and walks away from them. Lynn is in the room, and Ruby goes to her and she's like, they all think me and James slept together. Lynn goes, and did you?
I mean, come on, what does she expect? They are teenagers.
I know,
Outside of
right?
Miss Ruby, they have
All
sexual...
clearly sexual
Right.
promiscuity.
Yeah.
is
They're all the rich kids, you know.
Yes. Ruby is just also in the book, she's so clueless when James corners her after class and like shoves her. When she says no to the money, he instantly resorts to prostitution. Is not a separate scene in the staircase. And he's like, okay, he looks for some keys he has from the school and goes into like an empty office. And he's like, so are you loud? Or how do you like it? Because if you like it really loud, then we cannot be here because the teacher next door stays late, but like it's fine. She is completely clueless.
Of course.
It takes her a while to put the pieces together.
Ruby is not even like watching like Bridgerton or anything, you know.
She doesn't have time. May I remind you, I think I haven't said Oxford in a while. I need to remind everyone that Ruby cares about Oxford.
And Oxford only.
And Oxford only. Lynn, I love her. She goes, he saves your life, bails on his friends, carries you looking like something out of a wet t-shirt contest into the moonlit night, and he doesn't even kiss you. What else do you guys need? Fireworks? Honestly, yes. They keep toying with my feelings with almost kisses that these people are not having, and I'm rooting for them, and this is why I kept with the series, and this is why my obsession is still very much alive. Ruby looks at her like, how do you even know this? Lynn just says, girl, I saw the videos, everyone has, they are all over the internet. And then she tells her, you can't date Harry Styles and think no one will notice.
Did she actually say Harry Styles?
Yes. Yes, there's another name drop later that I'm like, what? It's okay. But they do the name dropping, and the references in the book as well is just a bit older, because I don't know when the book was published. Once again, I think it was like 2017, 18 or something. So the references are on par with the year. So this Harry Styles name drop kind of works, let's say. Let's remember the context they are in. They are getting the Great Hall ready for the event, and James walks into the scene with Kieran, our baby Kieran. They are carrying a table, and they need to drop it for a second because Kieran wants to talk to Ruby about the great job he's been doing with the caterers and everything. Kieran is being all cute just as always, letting everyone in the room know about his humongous crush on Ruby. And James notices, he makes a remark that makes Kieran pick up the table and carry it himself. And then James walks to Ruby and he's like, what did you do to this poor guy? She's like, what? He's like, he clearly likes you. Ruby's like, no, this is what I mentioned before. Ruby just says, he's just being nice to me, guys can be nice without wanting something from you. James is like, maybe, but look at the show he's putting on. It's definitely not for me. I do find it kind of hot though.
Okay.
James Beaufort bisexual allegations?
I mean, he probably...
Why not? I mean...
gay thought about Alistair at some point.
Oh, I like that. I think maybe he's just very comfortable in his masculinity.
No, definitely.
Note here the sexy strong stallion thing with Alistair as well. I feel like it's okay. He's just one of the guys that is like comfortable joking about it. This little scene in the book works out a tiny little bit different, and I do need to mention it because there is one scene there that I do feel like it's a pity that it got cut. And they do away with this dialogue, what did you do with the poor guy? What did you do to him? But in the book, they are in one of the party planning committee meetings, and Kieran is, again, trying to impress Ruby with all the great work he did. And as he's talking to Ruby, James texts her, he likes you. After the meeting is done, they stay behind and they start talking about it. And James is like, listen, I just feel bad for the guy. You're leading him on. And Ruby says like, no, how am I leading him on? James mentions that like it can't be that easy to make you smile like that. Just like be a bootlicker, you know? And she says, no, it's not like that. James has a little moment where he's like, you never smiled at me like that. Ruby's like, you never gave me a reason to smile at you.
Ooh,
His mood changes and it's not like playful anymore. He's really like much more serious, and he's like, I'm sorry. Ruby goes, why are you apologizing right now? He's like, I'm sorry, I never gave you a reason to smile like that. I'm going to change that.
okay.
I feel like I wanted and needed I am going to change that.
Why do I feel like this episode is longer than the previous one?
We started recording only 40 minutes ago, so it's not.
Content-wise. I don't know.
I don't know, it's 6 episodes, a lot of shit happens. I feel like episode 2 is... no, it's not shorter by minutes, but it's just a lot of things that happen. And episode 2, I feel like has some montages that I just skipped through.
Mm-hmm.
But here is like dialogue, plot, character development, freaking everything.
A lot of family dynamic, actually.
Yeah, which I'm glad. This is nowhere in the book. The breakfast with Lydia and Mortimer, I don't think it happens.
Boring.
Yeah, there are some other scenes in this episode, nowhere in the book, but very good for family dynamic and character development.
Yeah.
So, James continues to help Ruby with some decorations, and they climb this ladder together on opposite sides. It's cute once again. Just drink every single time I say cute in this video, I swear to God. He has a really sincere moment with her and tells her that this might be the first event at school that he's looking forward to genuinely. And Lynn walks into the scene and says, that's good. If you're gonna show up on time, then you're on time for Ruby's birthday as well. Is this where I mentioned the timeline in the book and how it differs from the series?
Yeah.
Let's go. So the book spends a lot more time with these different events, and it's different chapters, and it happens like weeks apart, but the show combines a bunch of things, like the press conference for young Beaufort, the gala, and Ruby's birthday are on the same day in the show, which drives up the stakes in the series, which is very good. All the choices James has to make become much more urgent, and it is therefore much more serious. Like, boo, it's Ruby's birthday, there's the press conference, there's the gala, there's everything happening all at once. Everything, everywhere, all at once. That's what happens. But in combining these events in the timeline, it also gives the series time to explore other stuff that I've mentioned before. Scenes that are completely nowhere in the book, we can find in the series, and they're doing a good job. Hearing that, James promises Ruby that he'll definitely be on time. Who else is she gonna have the first dance with if not him? In the book, Ruby is clear a bunch of times that she kinda cannot dance, but thinking about dancing with James is comforting for her because she just it makes sense to her that James would know how to dance. So he's like, it's okay. If I dance with him, I'll be fine. Our baby boy, Kieran, rushes to Ruby, interrupting the sweet moment between her and James. And he's like, hey, remember how you said you wanted the catering very fresh? They cut straight to 150 partridges. I'm gonna call them quails. They are not quails. But if Cyril is allowed to call them quails, let's just call them quails. I cannot pronounce the other thing. Birds. Alive birds delivered to Maxton Hall because Kieran messed up the order with the caterers.
Poor baby.
This is a crisis, clearly, and Ruby needs to solve it because what does Ruby care about? Pop quiz.
Oxford.
Good. We've learned something. And who does she need a letter of recommendation from?
I don't know.
Director. Yes.
Headmaster.
Headmaster Lexington. What is it all? Why is it all hanging in the balance? What does she need to do? Petra is lost. No,
Step her game up.
yes. The party.
Don't mess up.
Don't mess up.
Don't call prostitutes again in school.
Exactly. The bar is very low. Who is there in the schoolyard when they are all looking at the 150 live quails? Headmaster Lexington. Ruby is like, okay. She goes into action mode. Put them somewhere where they have air, please. And she rushes to distract Lexington. James, I love him. He also switches into action mode. And as soon as Ruby says, move them somewhere, James just like, instantly. 2.2 seconds? That's too long. 0.5 seconds later, James is like, okay, boys, let's go. Grabs a couple of cages and moves them. I just love him. He can follow instructions. We love a man who can follow instructions.
I mean, he likes her bossing him around, so...
We have another Lydia Sutton scene right now. Low-key, I like talking about Mortimer more than I like talking about Lydia and Mr. Sutton, but...
Because it's fun to hate, you know?
Yes.
Meanwhile, this relationship...
This is too real. This is just sad. Lydia is exhibiting some very unhinged behavior and catches Mr. Sutton on a hallway and starts confronting him about, like, is he going back to his ex or what's up? Because the Oxford prep class teacher, she saw them talking across the schoolyard and she instantly like, oh, she's mad because they broke up, I don't know how much time ago, like a few weeks ago, and she's still very worked up about it because they are in love and I'm supposed to care. But she is confronting him and she's like, is it really that easy for you to move on? Are you sleeping with her already? And he hits her and me and us with the love of my life bomb.
No, God, no.
And I'm like, oh, no, why are you like this? And also, this type of behavior from Lydia, this is exactly what Mortimer is talking about, girl. You can't go, he's your teacher. And also, Mr. Sutton, she's an 18-year-old. What do you mean, love of your life? The way this sends me spiraling. No, this is not spiraling. This is demoralizing. This is the appropriate reaction. I need to sit in silence after this. What do you mean, love of my life?
I cannot be... Is it in the book?
Yes. But later.
Oh.
Now, I feel slightly happier now that you mentioned the book because until book 2, I don't need to think about these. It's just the schoolyard scene. She just sees him and she's like, I'm so worked up about this. I don't like it. I'm very sad. But I think even that is in the second book only, not first. Good for me. She goes on to propose a let's get out of here, let's run away plan. He is the responsible adult in one matter regarding their situation, and he's like, you can't leave your family, girl. Like, Beaufort and James and your mother, your father, like, what do you mean? This is... No, we're not running away. Lydia just tells him, you have no idea what I truly want, and walks out of there. In the schoolyard, still dealing with the quail situation and moving the boxes, James gets greeted by Alistair and the boys. Cyril makes a remark like, oh, who would have thought that James Beaufort from a few weeks ago would have been here helping the party planning committee move little birds out of the way. James shuts him up almost instantaneously, and I think this is supposed to be the equivalent of a scene in the book where Ruby notices how much power James Beaufort has in this school, because she does take a quick moment to notice that he shuts up Cyril instantly, and Cyril is not the type of guy that anyone can shut up. You know? James does it. Love that. After the boys carry some boxes out, we're left with Alistair and James to have a nice best friend moment together. James apologizes for barging in on him and Cash. Alistair tells him it's okay. James says, Cash didn't look that happy about me seeing you. Alistair says that he's not ready to come out yet. James, our baby, asks Alistair like how does he feel about it, and Alistair just jokes about it, trying to make it alright and say like, he's making me happy, so it's alright by me for now. This is my second Cuba Libre. Hopefully we make it through this episode and I get us to the party. I should have started drinking at the party, not now, but it is what it is. Liquid courage. Oh my god, my headphones. After the Alistair James talk at school, James is in the car on his ride home. He's still smiling, looking out the window, clearly enjoying the little time he had at school with Ruby and the party planning committee, weirdly. Even in the book, he genuinely starts enjoying the organizational part of everything, the event planning, doing all the logistics for it, like. And again, the story is also partially about James finding some passions for himself, or like something he enjoys doing outside of Beaufort, because clearly that's just, it has so much, so many other feelings tied to it that he can't enjoy whatever the hell is going on with the family business. Once again, he looks very happy in the car. I just want to point out that it's also a Rolls Royce, and I would also personally feel like smiling and looking out the window like I'm in a music video in a Rolls Royce. Rolls Royce, sponsor me, please. At home, he's rehearsing the speech for the Young Beaufort launch, and he has like a private tutor for it. Of course he does, and Mortimer is in the room as well. And I think maybe I was drinking in expectation of this scene, because do I need to mention it again? Mortimer is my 13th reason. I just can't. Drink before the scene and then we drink after as well. James is doing a decent job learning the speech, but of course Mortimer pulls him aside and tries to instill some more pressure in him. James, our good boy, is already giving him attitude, which is the behavior he should be having towards Mortimer. Literally, I cannot with him. He deserves every single moment that James is being difficult with him. Absolutely. Lydia should pull some more shit as well. I want to see Mortimer suffer. That's too dark. Am I going to put that on the internet?
No.
Mortimer reminds James that tomorrow he becomes Mr. Beaufort Jr. I don't need to tell you how much this bothers James. As they speak, James gets a text from the party planning committee group, I think. It's not clearly from Ruby, but it's probably Ruby related. And he lets the slightest little grin happen on his face, and you just know that Mortimer saw it and he's gonna exploit that weakness. Right after we see James grinning a little bit, Mortimer makes sure to let us know that after the press conference, they are expected straight into a business dinner. And therefore, James won't be able to attend the charity gala. Coincidence? I think not. He tells James we can't have everything. And he hands James the iPad, just like before, the same move he did with Lydia. He's like, here's the picture of you and Ruby. And then he tells him, infatuation turns us into idiots. What will you choose? A crush you won't even remember in 2 years, or your family? It's your call. But it would be great if you could decide so that we can focus on the important things. The way this man is destroying every ounce of any positive feeling I could be feeling right now. Mortimer instantly kills him. Kills him?
Destroys him.
Destroys him. Me and James. I think I was talking about my happiness, but just another Theo misgendering things. I'm so sorry. Genuinely, it's just the way my brain works. We move on. Because we got used to all the parallels that are paralleling, where do we think we cut next? To the Bell residence. It's most probably the next day, because I don't know how else the timeline would make sense, so let's just assume it's the next day. Ruby is celebrating her birthday with her family. Once again, very heartwarming scene. They have a beautiful family dynamic to oppose the Beauforts. And Ruby gets gifted the volumes, like books. Very heavy, big books for her Oxford prep process. She needs to read a lot. And we get a couple of mentions of this in the book as well. And, books. You know what? We're talking about books. This is the perfect moment to note a thing from before when Petra asked, like, what about the moments where they realize they like each other? After the car ride to London, Ruby thinks to herself, I kind of liked my afternoon with James, although it got fucking ruined. But our discussion about stuff, well, he's intelligent. They talk about school and the reading list and other stuff, and he's like, he's really smart. So she has a thing not only for him physically, but yes, she likes his mind as well. When she finishes opening the gifts from her family, she looks around and she's like, what's up? Where's the cake? Her mom is like, okay, not yet. There's one more surprise for you. She starts opening a gift from James. He gifted her a leather bag from Beaufort with her initials on it, RJB. When they are at the archives, Tristan points to the quality of the suits and everything they make at Beaufort, and Ruby is fascinated with how the initials of everyone are all of their clothes, and James is like, this is not even that special for me, all my clothes have my initials on them, but for Ruby it's really special. And why did he gift her a bag? Because remember all his observations about her fugly backpack? The man saw a problem and solved it. And it's also the perfect bag for school. Ruby has her little routine of putting everything she needs for school in it, and she's like, oh my god, this is like a beautiful bag. With her bag, there is also a note. It just says happy birthday, JMB. But there is also the portrait he drew of her. Can these kids be more in love? The answer is yes. I will take us there. Now, because in the book this is happening over a couple of days, in the evening when Ruby is done celebrating with her family and Lynn and everyone, she calls James to say thank you, and he picks up, and we have a very... the framing. I like the picture that the author is painting, because you can hear James pick up, and at first it's like music in the background. Then as they talk, Ruby is like, it sounds like he's walking on gravel, what's up? And then it's suddenly silence once again, and we get a little line from Serial later talking about James leaving one of his parties early because Ruby called. This man was leaving the party just because Ruby called, and they spent a whole evening talking to each other about different shit. But in that phone call, also something I'm kind of sad that isn't in the series is he mentions that the James is perfect for her needs for school. The James is the bag.
Ah.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Okay. But reading the line in the book, I was like, the James is perfect for you. I'm like, who? What?
Okay.
Who? James? When? She has the same reaction, and he's like, yeah, the bags are named after us. The Mortimer would be too big for you, and the Lydia is too small.
What the heck? Okay, moving on.
She jokes, and she's like, hey, I hope when you take over the company, you'll name a bag after me. He pauses there. His whole demeanor on the phone changes a tiny bit too. And they get to talking, I think, in that phone call about more serious stuff. Like, I think he confesses to her that he doesn't want to go to Oxford. He doesn't want to take over the company. It's just he has such a candid moment. Probably, now that we know from the chapter that he was leaving Cyril's party, maybe he was slightly intoxicated as well, and that's why he went into his confession. But they are getting closer and closer. From Ruby's birthday breakfast, we cut to the Beauforts having breakfast together. If you thought that meant Cordelia, Mortimer, Lydia and James, you're wrong. It's only Lydia and James having breakfast and the servants around them. And it is kind of sad and completely different from the Bell household, but we've discussed this at length over the last few episodes. James and Lydia are a bit worked up about different things. James does master an apology about what he said yesterday about the teacher. He continues and says that for one moment he wanted to believe that he was in control, not Mortimer, and says that it's just unfair for both of them. Lydia is giving him a little bit of attitude that he kind of deserves, kind of not, depends where you stand on the Lydia Sutton thing happening. She replies with a snarky, what do you know about unfair? James just has to sit there and take the little sisterly banter because she goes on to complain about how everything she's worked so hard for and invested time in, it's either not hers or she cannot have it. And I'm like, girl, yes, about young Beaufort, 100%, unfair to you. And the way Mortimer has been treating you, unfair. But you're also complaining about not being able to be in a relationship with your teacher. So we need to tone that down a little bit. She ends her rant by saying that James should just play his role and it would make everything easier for everyone. A bit mean if you ask me, because James so far has been everyone's punching bag. Ruby's, Lydia's, Mortimer's. Perhaps Mortimer's quite literally. I don't want to even get into that. The scene is not that serious. They laugh it off in like 20 seconds and they even throw some bread across the table from each other. But they quickly stop laughing and realize how sad their situation is because they truly have no control over their lives. And James jokes and he's like, hey, maybe we should just switch. Parent trap? You could go to the conference, I'll go to the gala, and that's solved. They laugh a little, but once again they stop laughing suddenly because they both realize what that would ensue and the wrath that they would have to endure from Mortimer, and pulling something like that, not with Papa Mortimer around. They are just in an impossible situation, and it is unfair to both of them. James seeks out Percy for a little emotional support and advice. I kind of vibe with it, and it does later fuel a bit of a theory I have, and I'm not the only one in the fandom, but this is not the moment. Later. We'll talk later. James tells Percy that he feels like shit, and he really doesn't want to disappoint anyone, and everyone in his life does deserve him to behave well and perform at the press conference, but he feels like shit. Percy says, hey, pain is a good sign. It's a sign that you need change. As James ponders over the thought, he gets a text from the party planning committee group. The freaking little birds escaped their cages and they are running all over the schoolyard. He shows up at school in the afternoon to help everyone gather the little birds that are running all over the place. And at least we get a little bit of fun after the soul-crushing discussion with Mortimer and the sad breakfast that the Beaufort twins shared. And Ruby and James get a scene together at school as they run around trying to catch the birds. They are in an empty classroom and they're trying to catch the last bird, and we have a moment between them where they are alone, and it's one of the scenes adapted from the book, because in the book I told you about the phone call where he starts telling her about everything wrong with his family and his life and confesses a lot of things. This is one of the scenes that makes up for that not being in the show, because they do discuss a bunch of those topics in the classroom. Now, I need to read this. Thank you for one of that.
How is your makeup not melting?
I don't know. By the power of will.
Yeah.
Sheer will. It's literally too hot. Why is it this hot? It shouldn't be this hot.
The fucking sun is not even out. Literally.
Yes.
Fuck this.
Ugh. Ruby jokes about the little birds being kind of fast for how tiny their feet are. And James replies with, hey, that's kind of like you. Maybe that's why your parents gave you your middle name. James Beaufort, are you meaning to tell me that you looked up her middle name? It's Jemima, and it means dove. And he tells her, like, it's a really cute middle name. Why would you hide that from me?
Oh.
They are very cute, and I love the scene.
Did you like stalk her on Instagram or Facebook or
God,
LinkedIn?
God, no, LinkedIn.
She definitely has one.
Oh, for sure she has LinkedIn. She's all over that. They cannot find the bird, and they take a little break, and Ruby asks about the M in JMB. It's encased in a joke, let's say, because she's like, hey, I need it now so I can have enough time to sew your initials into something, delivering to the bag. She also says thank you for the gift. The mood completely switches once again, and James responds in a very somber tone. M stands for Mortimer, like my father. James hates this. From the bottom of his heart, he literally, if he dislikes his Beaufort name and the pressure that comes with that, he must deeply hate the fact that his name is Mortimer, like the fucking devil.
I mean, you can legally change it now. He has money for that.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I wish that was a thing in the book. Like, he not only sheds the... Spoilers. No, it's okay. I just wish James doesn't change his name, but maybe he should. After the Mortimer reveal, he also tells her that he can't attend the gala anymore, unfortunately. She tries to be encouraging and quite honestly, why would she be mad at it or what? He has other responsibilities and it's okay. It does suck a little bit that he won't be there after working so hard for it, because he has been pulling his weight on the event committee. She tells him that the press conference must surely be an exciting occasion. But James sighs and confesses that he doesn't really want to be involved with Beaufort. And he is not even sure about Oxford, just like in the phone call that they have in the book. And he finishes that thought telling her that she was kind of right in the Oxford prep class. He doesn't know who he is or what he wants outside of his Beaufort name and the responsibilities and pressure that his last name come with. On paper, him and Lydia have all this privilege, but all the opportunities don't make up for the fact that they cannot make their own decisions, at all. And Ruby simply replies, okay, what would you want then? What would make you happy if you could do whatever you wanted? I genuinely think that until this very moment, this man has never considered even thinking for a little bit. What would he truly want? What he endures from Mortimer, I don't think it allows him to think outside of all the trappings of his existence. And right now with Ruby, it's a completely new thing that he has never considered thinking about. And he responds accordingly, and he says he has no idea. Ruby tries to be encouraging still, and she says that everyone has times when they feel completely free and they forget everything around them, when they stop questioning everything. And she goes into this philosophical journey with her dialogue now, and she's like, everyone deserves to find out what they really have a passion for, blah blah. The same vibes as the first monologue in this series. He's completely captivated by her in this scene, and we get another almost kiss. And this is what I mean. They are toying with my emotions, because do they kiss? Do they? No, because Kieran interrupts the sweet moment and he's like, I found the last bird. Kieran, never change, baby. But also, can I just have them kiss? Please. My baby, why did you have to interrupt?
How long do we have to wait?
2 more pages. Do we have time for another almost kiss in these 2 more pages?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
They are really killing me. The only thing I want for these 2 is to kiss, and they are baiting me for 2 episodes now. Remember when Ruby noticed at the beginning of the school day that James feels miserable about not playing lacrosse? We cut to her in Mr. Lexington's office, telling him all about how James has been helpful with the committee, he's changed his behavior, and she really thinks that his punishment about not playing lacrosse should end. Lexington is like, this is very confusing for me, because first you complain that he ruined the party, then that he is not contributing in any way, and now you want the punishment to go away. She reiterates that his contribution was invaluable to the event, and Lexington is like, okay, if everything goes right, I will let James play lacrosse again, but don't forget what's at stake for you. The letter of recommendation, that is. I have not said letter of recommendation in so long. I did not notice this on a first watch, but on my insert number watch, because at this point I don't know how many times I watched this for my script and everything. But we are in the car in London with James and Lydia. The Lannister coded song is playing again, and it's because they are headed to the press conference. James is still rehearsing his speech, stumbles on some words, and Lydia continues because once again, this is her baby. James is quite surprised by it, and Lydia just looks at him and says, "It's my speech after all." They share a look, and James goes, "It will never stop. There will always be something more important than what we want, until we decide what that is." They have a twin telepathy moment, or at least that's what it feels like. They keep looking at each other, and then there's a resolution on their face. And James goes, "You make your opponent think they have only one possible course of action, right?" They share a few more looks, and I'm like, parent trap? Parent trap. And they tell Percy to turn that car around. My babies are going rogue, and I'm loving every single second of it. And also Percy just turning the car around instantly. I got so excited, I almost took my eyes out with this. It took out down. We are now at the gala, and Ruby, what do we think she's doing? Is she all over the place again? Yes. Is Lynn trying to calm her down? Also yes. She says, "Hey, chill, you look incredible in the dress. It's your birthday. The gala is going perfectly. Let's just relax. And may I remind you that even without your prince, you're still a goddamn princess. And you'll get the letter of recommendation from Lexington. We'll end up going to Oxford, and we'll become the Beyoncés of politics."
Okay,
I know. If you think the Harry Styles thing was weird before, Lynn literally masters the world. The Beyoncé of politics. We cut to Alistair and the other idiots drinking in the school library, I think. This is classic them. However many events in the books that happen, the boys are always... There's always the flask someone has. They always drink some alcohol or sneak some alcohol into the events. This is just the usual for them. The scene, however, is something I don't necessarily enjoy because I love Alistair. And he has to sit through such a stupid conversation. He's on the dating apps. Cyril is like, let me see all the boys. Like, why don't you get another hookup? Alistair is like, it's not that easy. He takes the phone away and presents it to Cash and the other boys. And it's a very... I don't know, the scene turns pretty homophobic in a way. Like, Cyril is just joking around, but he makes Cash uncomfortable, and it's Cash who displays his internalized homophobia a little bit, because he does eventually say for Cyril to back off of him, because remember, he's not ready to come out. He does tell Cyril, like, I would never do anything with a guy. With Alistair in the room.
Oh, baby.
Alistair deserves better. What can I tell you? But I can understand Cash as well. Anyway, Alistair gets a message on the dating app, and he's like, hey, seems like I found a new date, and walks out of there. And honestly, Cash deserves it. When that scene is over, we get another inner monologue from James. You can spend your whole life hesitating, but only if you dare to jump will you know what's behind the cliff. An abyss or a wind that will carry you. He walks into the gala. Everything is in slow motion, just like at the Beaufort archives. He's looking for Ruby, and as he spots her, it's again just such a beautiful scene. She also spots him, they smile at each other, and it's just magical. He is there. You can read surprise on her face because he did tell her that he's not gonna show up. And they make their way to each other in the crowd. The inner monologue continues. The moment you lose the ground below your feet is scary. If you focus on your dreams, you forget gravity can play tricks on you. We cut to Mortimer at the press conference. Unfortunately, this freaking guy is outside of the press conference, and I was rooting for the mischievous plan to happen, but he spots Lydia walking into the press conference and stops her. While this is happening, James continues with his thoughts. Sometimes it is the act itself, the fact that you take fate into your own hands, can change who you are. Mortimer asks where the hell is James, and Lydia says where he belongs, just like I am. It would be so badass and so nice if this thing worked out. But does it? Of course it doesn't. We cut back to James and Ruby sharing that first dance that he promised her. She asks, what happened? I thought you couldn't make it. He tries to avoid the whole topic, and he's like, we have 3 more hours of your birthday, let's just enjoy them. Ruby decides to tell him about talking to Lexington. I talked to Headmaster Lexington. You can play lacrosse starting next week again. He is so happy to hear that and looks at her in a mix of emotions. He is happy, he is mesmerized, he is in love, frankly. He says her whole name, Ruby Jemima Bell, and cups her cheeks and leans in for a kiss. Do I get my kiss? Do I? No. Because a fuse blows and the whole room goes dark. Of course, Ruby's heart is like racing, skips a bit, and she's like, oh my god, this cannot be happening because remember, this needs to go perfectly for that freaking letter of recommendation. It's fine. They make their way to the electrical panel that James somehow knows where it is. But knowing him and the boys and how they like to mess with everyone at school, of course he would know where the electrical panel is. In the book, we even have a small passage in her POV chapter where she's like, for a second, I really thought that he's messing with me again. They run to the basement and they turn the lights back on. You can hear everyone upstairs just sigh in relief, and the party goes on. And you can see how Ruby isn't at ease anymore either. They are alone again. Ruby starts saying that this might have been his last act as part of the event planning committee. James takes a second and then replies, why does it sound like you're saying goodbye? It's because she kind of is. In the book, as she's talking to Lexington in his office, she does think to herself, like, am I making a mistake? Because I'm kind of enjoying his company and his contribution to the event planning committee. And I genuinely wonder if we're gonna hang out ever again if he's not part of the event planning committee. So she is actually kind of saying goodbye. They pause for a second, and then my kids embrace into a beautiful, wild, passionate kiss. Finally, I love them. And they are really feeling it. They are going crazy. The way this felt like the carriage scene in Bridgerton, insane. But can I enjoy it? Can I? No, because fucking flashlight flashes on them, scaring the fuck out of me, and it's Mortimer bursting in on my beautiful kids kissing. Cut to black.
Why did he come there? What was he doing there?
To get James.
I know. but
Because
still.
he's not at the press conference, right?
I hate him.
Okay. To calm down and come off of that, of all the feelings I'm feeling. Because my babies, they deserve the world and they deserve their beautiful kiss. But
Why were you so dramatic?
because I'm really look at me having another drink because Mortimer burst in and ruined everything for me. Let's discuss the book and take a moment to calm down. Petra just asked, why did Mortimer show up? Well, in the series is because James wasn't at the press conference. He is acting irresponsible. It is ludicrous behavior for Mortimer. I'm like, can you be? I just can't with him. In the book, Mortimer is there because it doesn't take place at the same time as the press conference. And they even have a whole thing in the book where Ruby is at the party. Of course, she's taking care of everything, making sure everything is running smoothly. And as Kieran and some other parents have a little commencement dance to the whole charity gala and Victorian party, remember? There is this iconic moment in the book where the double doors to the event hall burst open and they have this beautiful entrance, and it's all the boys dressed beautifully in period costuming. It's their families as well. They all look like royalty. It's such a big moment. Or it felt like it when I read it. I was like, damn, this would have been freaking epic in the show. It felt like the Harry Potter ball, or when all the kids from the other schools show up and it's such a big deal. That's what it feels like. Like all these people are dressed amazingly, and Ruby does take a while to just look at everyone and appreciate Lydia's outfit and makeup and everything. But so Mortimer and Cordelia are already at the party. Everyone is at the party, and he most probably noticed that James and Ruby just freaking disappeared. And we'll continue with the rest of that in episode 5. A couple of more things from the book. The book lets us know from both of their perspectives that they are down hard. My kids are DTF. Ruby is like, if he didn't stop because of Mortimer showing up, I would have gone all the way. James is the same. He's like, I don't even want to think about what I would have done to Ruby. But I do, kind of. They are both thinking spicy things, and I'm loving it. Also, it's sort of insane that our goody two-shoes over here is like, I caught a glimpse of his shoulder and his skin when he undressed, when he was prostituting himself. And she is thinking about that. She has her hand, like she's undressing him when Morty shows up. And they do deliver that to me. It's very passionate and they are banging on walls and stuff. So it's kind of the same in the series. I just appreciate the POV chapters so much because it's nice to know that my kids are horny for each other. That sounded creepy. What can I do? This is what this series is doing to me. I'm rooting for my kids. It's healthy, I swear. That was episode 4. I have successfully taken us from enemies to lovers. I think that is official now with this case. And we'll see what happens next.